It'd be helpful if I turned on my mic. Thank you very much. See, I'm already, a step behind. Now I have to catch up. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell by my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather, and so I'm going to struggle through this meeting. Bear with me. There may be times when I might have a coughing fit. We'll have to step outside. It's been happening for the last several days. But I'm on the job. I'm your mayor, and we're ready to go through this. We have a lot of items that we have to catch up on from the last meeting, which we will do. I'm going to call our meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Mayor Doring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Deasy.
Here.
Councilmember Barrick.
Here.
And council members Spotterotto and Summers are absent. And I'm going to let City Attorney Walsh describe why.
Sure. I just wanted to note for the record, we did have two remote locations posted for council members Spotterotto and Summers. However, we confirmed that they weren't able to post the agenda 72 hours in advance at their location as required under the Brown Act. So they're not going to be participating. We won't have any remote participation tonight. And also, I just wanted to make clear for the council's benefit that I don't believe we have any ordinances on the agenda tonight. So what we do have is, since we have a quorum of 3, a majority of the quorum is needed to pass items. So something can pass with a 2-1 vote. I just wanted that to be clear in case there's any future confusion on that.
All right. The other benefit of that is that we can have voice votes on a couple of these items rather than having roll call votes. Yes. Saves my voice a little bit. All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. We're on to item 4, adoption of the agenda. I'll turn to our clerk to explain that we have a couple items that we're going to be taking out of order. I referenced that earlier. We had some items that are continued from our last meeting, but I'll let our clerk explain how we're going to do that. And please, clerk, keep me on board, keep me on track if I lose track of where we are. A little complicated agenda tonight.
So, Mr. Mayor, first, staff would like to remove 12.1, and we will continue that to the first meeting in February. And then we are also recommending that we take a few items from the January 13th meeting out of order since we did not get to those. So those items would be 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3. We would hear those after consent and before the public hearing, before continuing the public hearing.
All right. And with those changes noted, I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. That motion passes unanimously. Okay, on to adoption of the minutes. Item 5. This is consideration and proposed approval of regular meeting minutes from January 13. Any changes to note or any corrections? And I'll look for a motion to adopt those minutes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt. All in favor of adopting the minutes from January 13th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That's an aye from the mayor also. All right, on to public forum. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment to your city council tonight on matters that are not on the agenda? 4 minutes. Mr. Covell, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Doring and members of the council. Sorry you're feeling under the weather, Mayor. I am just here to report on some general observations about the zoning code update that was completed in 2023 with much effort by staff and the community. As an architect, I rely on it in my professional work regularly, and I'm here to note a few of the shortfalls in its stated goals. Some of those are The primary one was to align the code with the 2040 general plan. It took years to formulate that beautiful document, and it really is a work of art for this community. And there are a number of ways that it falls short of its goal in aligning it, the zoning code to it.
Bless you.
It was prepared to identify specific changes to the code and to also improve its organization and usability. And it was prepared by Lisa Wise Consulting. The result is a code that is 397 pages long and at least as complex as its predecessor. It is, rather than simplifying the process, the update introduced confusion and a significant number of new regulations that were never clearly identified as specific changes as was originally outlined to us, the community. During the draft review process, professionals and members of the public were hindered by the absence of side-by-side comparisons, making it nearly impossible to evaluate consistency with the prior code or with the general plan's adopted policies. An increasing amount of Planning Commission agenda time has been consumed correcting or clarifying newly encountered code language. I count 3 separate such agenda items from last week alone. Many of the substantive policy changes, along with entirely new policies, were never discussed, debated, or explicitly authorized by this council. Additional embedded policy changes continue to surface without having been publicly vetted. Recent examples include broad new restrictions on alcohol sales across large portions of town, counting outdoor porches towards floor area ratio calculations, unnecessary and unexplained changes to the signage code, and, as we may see tonight, the failure to require new residential construction and lot sizes to be reasonably scaled to neighboring homes and to be context sensitive. I would like to ask that the council members who served in 2023, did you read and fully understand the entirety of the revised code before voting to adopt it? I'm not putting you on the spot here, just rhetorically. The community did not receive what it was promised. Rather than serving as a clear implementation tool for the general plan as required under state planning law, the code has become a source of ambiguity and dispute. These deficiencies are already costing applicants in the city time and money as issues are addressed piecemeal through adjudication. The Planning Commission held a hearing on December 16th to receive public input on how the new zoning code is functioning. Many insightful comments were offered to the commission. However, no corrective action resulted from that meeting other than the proposal to hold another meeting. Yay. The apparent approach is to continue addressing problems incrementally as they arise. This approach undermines the general plan's intent that the zoning code function as a clear, predictable, and user-friendly implementation mechanism, and it represents a significant waste of public and private resources. Responsibility for correcting these excesses and deficiencies lies with the consultant and staff who produce the update, not me nor other local professionals, project applicants, and concerned residents. That consultant should be directed to remedy the problems it created and to do so without additional cost to the community. Any policy changes that departs from the prior code should be individually reviewed by both the Planning Commission and City Council, presented side by side with the previous language, evaluated for consistency with the general plan and state law, subjected to public scrutiny, and only then considered for adoption. So, to conclude, may I ask that and suggest that you consider directing staff to return the zoning code update to Lisa Wise Consulting and require them to complete the work for which they were retained, to faithfully implement the 2040 general plan, and to identify specific changes to the code where necessary and the reasons for them in a clear, transparent, and publicly accountable manner. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you. We've also received your letter, and it's attached to our current agenda item, and so we've read that. So thank you, Mr. Covell. Mr. Belt, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, city council members. I recently had a nice conversation through the email with Mario Traverso, and I asked him a few questions, and he was very prompt at responding to my questions. Number one,
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
I asked him if we were putting purple pipe down Oak Street, and I believe he told me, no, we are not putting it down Oak Street. Which brings to mind why we're not, seeing as how we went ahead and put in a tertiary, advanced tertiary system in our wastewater treatment plant. It seems a shame that we should be going to the extra expense to put tertiary in our wastewater plant when we really didn't have to. We could have satisfied the Water Quality Control Board's order for cease and desist with doing an advanced secondary treatment. But we went ahead and put in tertiary. So the other question I asked Mr. Traverso was if there's any use for the tertiary water that we're now capable of doing, and he said, no, not yet, not at this time. So it brings to mind that, and this goes back about a year to Mr. Walsh, I submitted basically a letter being concerned about maybe potentially being out of compliance with Proposition 218. And there's 5 pretty strict restrictions in Proposition 218 that forbid cities from doing things. And one of them states that no fee or charge may be imposed for a service unless that service is actually used by or immediately available to the owner of the property in question, and fees or charges based on potential or future use of a service are not permitted. So here we are, we're wastewater customers, and we've paid for a tertiary system that's not available to us, and yet we're still not even putting in the pipes for the future use of it. And it just brings to my mind that, why are we not doing that? If we have how are we planning to use the tertiary water in the future? And I guess that's my question to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners. City Council. My name is Michelle Lou Cavell. I wanted to start off with a quote, and I have a very short general public comment. This is, here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. Steve Jobs. There are people who check boxes, and there are those who think outside of the box. We need to respect both. I want to bring attention to a general observation. God forbid we have a fire during rush hour. We have 2 ways out of this town, the trail and Highway 29, and they're both single lane. We need to take population growth seriously. This is no disrespect to any of the projects and any of the people who are here tonight trying to make a difference. I just want a measured way for public health and safety reasons. We have to be proactive at master planning, not just review on individual project basis. We need to take the general plan seriously. Another sad observation I can't help but make tonight is that it appears that residents need lawyers. I'm planning on starting a nonprofit. I've yet to figure it out, but I'm talking to a lot of people. It seems that residents need representation. This is not what we want, as it is expensive, but the community needs representation because it is apparent in the responses, staff reports, and such that they are not here to serve the residents. The City Council, I respectfully do not lump you into any group. besides the one you chose, which is to serve your constituents. Individually, you come with open minds. No matter what staff, the city attorney, or the city manager have told you, today you are here with an open mind to serve your community. I say this respectfully and as a resident, not representing any other roles. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing anyone else approach the podium at this moment, so I'll close public comment and we'll move along. I'm sure there'll be more to be said on the particular agenda items that come up as we move through the items. All right. We're on to item 7, reports by staff, city council, and future agenda items, and AB 1234 reports. Took me a while to actually figure out what an AB 1234 report is, but I have to make one tonight, Mr. Comello. So I spent the majority of last week at a conference in Sacramento for mayors and council members. It was an academy, very beneficial to me. Got to know a lot more folks from Sonoma County and other counties talking about the similar issues that we have here. The courses were on ethics law, open government and conflicts of interest, council policy roles in city planning, harassment prevention, building council and city manager teams, social media and digital communications, civic engagement, and financial responsibility. And that took place over the course of 3 days, and thank you to the city for paying for that for me. So that was the reason I have to disclose that. All right. Now, before I turn to you, Mr. Comello, I'll turn to our city attorney to report out on our closed session from today.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the council did meet in closed session as part of a special meeting prior to this one to discuss labor negotiations with all of our bargaining units, and there was no reportable action from that meeting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Comello.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other members of the council wishing to report on anything? All right. Okay, we're moving on to item 8, presentations and public recognitions. We have kind of a bittersweet, as these things are, recognition. This is the recognition of the retirement of the Director of Community Development, Maya DeRosa. I've gotten to know Maya, over the last 6 years that she's worked here in the city of St. Helena, part of a 34-year career in public service and planning. I've made a number of comments already, but there's no, in the press at least, in press releases about her impact on our city. I do believe that it will be an impact that we'll be looking upon years from now in a positive light. I'm sorry I'm not as energetic as I should be. I'm struggling through this, but I have deep gratitude and admiration for Maya DeRosa for the work she's done here. And there's some major items. Some of them are controversial, of course, and some of us will have different opinions about them. But she got the Farmstead Hotel through entitlement. She worked through the housing element, and we had a lot of challenges with our housing element. It's approved and certified. We have a zoning code that is evolving and certainly needs some more work. But major, big ticket items for a community of our size that she was managed to accomplish with grace and dignity and professionalism. So I just want to make sure that I thank her for that, and I will turn to Mr. Comello to add to those comments, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so I just wanted to share a few anecdotes based on my experience with Ms. DeRosa. When I came to the city, it became immediately clear that for me, that I needed strong leaders in our community development department and in our public works department. And in Maya, who was here at the time, I wanted to assess, is she up to the challenge? I knew we were going to be doing lots of different things in the city, and I wanted to make sure that I had a team that could perform at a very high level. So as I was evaluating the leadership team, I was impressed with her grasp not just on the technical aspects of her job, but also in managing people and projects. And I say that because as people get more and more experience, oftentimes the most technically superior person gets promoted. In executive roles, that's not necessarily the best person. It also needs a person that understands how to manage projects, and that's because you're dealing with a variety of challenges simultaneously, and you need to be able to prioritize, triage, and move things forward. In one of my first meetings with my executives, I always ask the question, what are the challenges you face, and how can I assist you in your role? Many ask for more staff. Many ask for support in a variety of other ways, but Maya, I remember, clearly said, I do have some positions that have been frozen, so I could use them, but what I really need is technology. I need a permitting system that will enable me to provide better services to the community. I learned that her request for a permitting system had been rejected by the staff at the staff level twice. I understand why the former city manager and finance director rejected that request, because they were trying to live within the means. But the very fact that she hadn't given up, and she knew that what we needed was an investment in technology was impressive, along with her other suggestions. She made a persuasive case for the funding, which then I came to council for, and we got the money, and proud to say, thanks to her efforts, that we now have a new permitting system that provides better services to our community. But I was also impressed in those early meetings by her broad outlook. She didn't see her role simply as a planning and building director or a community development director. She saw her role as an executive for the city, and a lot of her suggestions and recommendations were citywide in nature, and I've implemented many of them with her support and that of the other executives. I just want to say that she has been, oftentimes the word has been used to say that she's been unflappable. That doesn't mean that one doesn't, the impacts, it doesn't take a toll on one's person, but she was always willing and able to get the best out of her staff because of her strong management skills, and yet at the same time hold her staff accountable to very, very high standards of quality. I'll just summarize to say that I've been in awe of her skills. I've enjoyed working with Maya DeRosa for the last 3.5 years. I will miss her upbeat and positive and unflappable nature and outlook. So with that, Maya, you are fortunate to be leaving this great city. Thank you very much for your service, and best wishes on your horse riding.
And I've been told by our clerk to mention that we will have cupcakes at our next break, if we have a break. And we also have a bottle of wine, which I will deliver to you right now. And actually, I wouldn't mind if you open this right now. Or maybe with a little bit of contract. I won't shake your hand at this point. So. Thank you. All right. Any other comments from my council members on this item?
Congratulations on your retirement. We'll miss you, but good to hear that you'll be on horses nearby in Calistoga.
All right.
I wish I was joining you. And you'll be missed.
Others wishing to comment, this is now the time. We only have a few minutes, but happy to hear from anyone else who would wish us. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay. We're on to staff briefings, item 9. This is entitled to provide status report of the fiscal 2025-2026 second quarter for the City of St. Helena's Capital Improvement Plan, also known as the CIP. Mr. Leach, or are you going? Mr. Leach, I assume you're going to.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, council members, and public. Thank you for making the sacrifice to come out this evening just to listen to this presentation. So this is our quarterly update on the 5-year CIP that was in fact adopted back last May in 2025. So this is through December 31st of 2025 is this update. So next slide, please. So really we want to cover the four main sections of this capital improvement program, which is the civic and streets and water and wastewater projects. Next slide. And this gives us a breakdown of what's been budgeted versus spent to date. We presented in October, that was the end of quarter one, what had been spent year to date on just the civic, streets, and stormwater sections. And then through quarter two, again, which is through December 31st, what's been expended to date. You can see in some of these items, not a lot of significant change, especially in stormwater. I would say that the $2.5 million that's currently budgeted in 25-26, that's mostly going to the Oak Avenue underground utilities rehab project. So as of December, bless you, as of December 31st, we had not expended very much money on that project. So you'll see a significant jump in that expenditure come quarter three update that we provide that would be April. Any questions so far? We'll keep moving.
Okay.
Yes, sir. No, go ahead. Okay. Next is, we did want to highlight really some of the efforts that operations staff is performing to increase the pavement condition index. These are streets that we've performed crack sealing, and again, this is through the end of December of last year, and it reflects the length in miles as well as the total pounds used. It is a requirement of our Measure U obligation that we expend a certain amount of money annually on operations and maintenance, so that's staff time and materials for street maintenance. It could be crack sealing, it could be repairing streetlights, it could be potholing, sidewalk repairs. Those are all eligible expenses that we put in a particular line item to demonstrate maintenance of effort. That is an obligation of Measure U funds. Next slide, please. So on this particular item, I wanted to really highlight the glaring and obvious fact that we are behind on if you're looking at budgeted versus expended, especially in the water world. We have a budget of almost $9 million in fiscal year 26, and to date we've spent less than $1 million. And so what I can tell you on a subsequent slide, we'll look at some of the main projects that are going to be going to construction over the course of this calendar year and the next couple years. Which will cause those expenditures to jump up significantly. The wastewater, the primary expenditures are being near the completion of the wastewater treatment plant, and we've embarked on some of the wastewater sewer main replacement, being Oak Avenue, and there's a couple other sewer replacement projects that are taking place around town. A couple of the other things I wanted to highlight. In the next 3 years, we'll be primarily in design, water and wastewater projects. So there's about 40 projects that will either studies or in design that total around $7.2 million. That's just design. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the projects that are embarking on construction. And we jumped to slide 6. Thank you. This slide reflects, as I noted previously, there are actually 7 projects highlighted on this slide. It's a great read. It's on the website, but what it reflects is 7 projects valued at $18.2 million in construction. Many of these will be are either under contract or will be going out to bid this spring. With construction either in the fall or during the non-peak season, as in the case of the intake tower and valve house project, which is W109. So what this really reflects is there's a fair amount of design that has taken place over the last year and a half on these significant capital projects, and they're going to be coming to fruition over the next 18 months to 2 years. Any questions on this exciting slide?
Questions from my colleagues on these exciting slides?
Thank you. Next slide, please.
Boom, boom.
Yes. Wanted to highlight on this this is some of the new projects. These projects were not included when the council adopted the capital improvement program last May. They've been added since then because for a variety of reasons, we're either starting projects and incurring expenses, or as in the case of 2605, that was an item that a negotiated settlement agreement with the State Water Board as a result of some fines that we incurred through maximum contaminant level exceedances at the wastewater treatment plant. So those projects are in various stages. The 2604, the effluent pump station, that's actually currently under design and analysis. The water treatment plant modular housing is in exploratory and put it in the category of procurement methodology analysis. And then at the bottom, we have some notice of completions that have taken place over this fiscal year to date. And with that, next slide. A little difficult to really read, but I really wanted to provide a shout out to the Water Wastewater Advisory Committee. They have a subcommittee that is focused on water quality, and that's made up of Mr. Jay Koba and Peter White. They've gone through the process of taking data from our lab samples for both at the water sources of Bell Canyon and the 2 Stonebridge wells, and charted those on graphs and comparing what's happening with the iron and manganese at prior to treatment, and then what's happening with iron and manganese post-treatment. And then in the far lower right corner is reflects what manganese at a particular address in the distribution system. So really the highlight of the slide is that progress is being made on the treatment side. The significant gap in what needs to be addressed is what's a new capital project that was on the prior slide is going through and addressing the accumulation of debris in the distribution system itself. That seems to be the main source of brown water, and when higher velocities come through as we're transferring water around the system to meet demand, that's what's causing the brown water to get into people's homes. So we're working with a consultant to kind of put together a pilot program, and you'll be seeing an agenda item in the not too distant future for authorization for that. Next slide, please. Want to spend a little bit of time on Oak Avenue and just really want to put a shout out to the public in that area that either live in that area, they're affected by the significant construction, the business owners, property owners. It's been no small project and no small impact to the community. So we appreciate people's patience. We've navigated bus routes and a funeral, coordination with school district and business owners. Significant kudos to the project manager, Mr. Mario Traverso, on this project. So he's been juggling a lot of that interaction. Appreciate the efforts by Argonaut Construction to attempt to minimize the impact to the public. Again, the status of the project is, the scope is it's really replacing sewer, storm, and water mains from Mitchell, most of them to Madrona. The sewer mainline work has been completed. Now they're going back and doing all the sewer laterals. And then after that, they'll be doing storm drain and then rounding out a lot of the fun with replacing the water main and services. With that, we'll go on to the next slide. And I want to talk a little bit about the resources that you've authorized us to, started to authorize. You've authorized us to retain 2 part-time project managers. We've executed a hiring of 1 project manager who's got 30 years of experience. He's a professional engineer. He's taken on several of the projects that had been, I would put in the category of stalled due to lack of engagement. And then we're in the process of negotiating with the second part-time project manager, and I'm also in conversations with a couple other consulting firms. Again, their focus is going to be on project management services to deliver capital projects. Next slide, please. And then finally, we get to start this process all over again. I'm just really excited about it. For the fiscal year 27 to 31, updating the 5-year capital improvement program, and we're starting our traveling road show in February. And so we want to walk through just the various committees and commissions that will be presenting and allowing both the public and those committees to weigh in on scope of projects, prioritization. If there's want to recommend funding for those projects that are unfunded, that'll be part of the discussion as well. Next slide, please. So here's kind of our scope of the who, where, when, and how, ending up with council adoption in either late May or early June. And with that, I will field any questions you might have.
Questions from my colleagues? Vice Mayor Deasy.
Well, first, thank you for all of the great project work. It's exciting. I know the Water and Wastewater Committee's been appreciative of all the work and the dialogue. I wanted to kind of highlight the pigging and swabbing and the SCADA systems, which I think you said, but really we believe are key to getting where we need to be with water quality. Can you talk about, do we have any idea yet on timing of those projects, or is that?
Yeah, if we could go back to, I think it's slide 6. So, next one. Slide, yeah, that one there. So 118 or 113 is SCADA improvements. We have a budget for about $500,000 for this fiscal year. We're in the process of putting the scope together right now. In fact, the part-time project manager, that's one of his main projects that he's tasked with getting across the finish line. So it's actively being pursued. He's engaging some SCADA integrators for assistance with some scoping. And then he'll be engaging operations staff on specifics of various facilities and such. On the next slide, if we go to that, that's the one of the new CIPs that we'll be bringing before you once we kind of scope the pilot program. We're engaged with a consultant now that their expertise is in distribution system rehabilitation, and it includes ice pigging, swabbing, a variety of means and methods to evacuate debris out of distribution systems, and so we're working with them on a scope and a proposal.
Thank you. And so are these like 1-year timeframes, 5-year timeframes? Like,
I appreciate you asking that question. So the SCADA project, I would expect us bringing an item to council in some form for authorization for either design, build, or execution of a contract no later than the end of March. For the pilot program, it's probably going to be something similar, second meeting in March. Might be earlier depending on if we can kind of figure out our scope and where we want to execute a pilot program.
thank you.
Certainly.
All right, I thank you for your comprehensive update, and hopefully these privately or hired consultants will help us move forward. Consultants are a bad word unless they're linked to project management, which moves these projects along.
Absolutely.
We have money to be spent. We have money we don't want to leave on the table, right?
Agreed.
All right, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. All right. We are on to item 10, our consent calendar. Members of the council or the public present at the meeting may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of considering alternative action for extended discussion or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended actions.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
All right, there's a motion. Did we pull any of the items, or do we want to pull any of the items, Mr. Mello? Refresh my recollection.
Yeah, I just realized, sorry about that, I should have jumped in. I would like to pull item 10.3. Yes,
All right.
thank you.
There's a motion, but I think there's a need for a readout on one of the employment agreements. Is that correct, Mr. Walsh?
There is, and just to confirm that there's no one from the public who wants to pull anything either.
Yeah, my request includes the public. Anyone wishing to pull an item for further discussion, you're welcome to do that now. I don't see any.
Great. So yes, there's a new requirement in the Brown Act that when there's department head level employment agreements in the agenda, there needs to be a verbal report on that, and item 10.2 is a proposed employment agreement for Ashley Sylvester, new Director of Community Services, and there's a requirement to provide some oral detail on the terms of compensation. So the proposed agreement places her at step A for that position at a starting salary of $171,183. She's entitled to the same benefits, vacation accrual as are set forth in the unrepresented compensation program. She'll continue as to participate in PERS as a PEPRA member, and the agreement includes a $200 per month vehicle allowance.
All right. We received a fair amount of public comment on that particular item, really focused more on process issues that are not before us, but the notes are well taken, the comments. I've read the comments, and we'll have to kind of work through those issues. Okay, so we pulled, well, I'll look for a motion to adopt the balance of the consent calendar other than 10.3, which Mr. Camelo wants to have a further discussion about. And so there, I assume that is your motion?
Yep, the
Okay,
balance.
was slightly,
Modified, yeah.
okay.
Minus 10.3.
All right, is there a second?
Bold.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
Mayor Doyne.
Yes. All right, thank you for that. Back to Mr. Camelo on 10.3. This is approval of a resolution authorizing a temporary housing allowance and authorizing the city manager to execute a side letter with the St. Helena Employees Association. Again, we've received public comment. I'll note at least the one I've seen entered on the agenda is from Mr. Tim Hall. Mr. Camelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have Director of Admin Services, Ms. Kellogg, make some initial presentation items, comments, and I'll add to it.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So this item is to provide a temporary housing allowance for the chief plant operator at the water treatment plant. On December 9th, City Council did approve of the creation of capital improvement project W2603 to put modular housing at the water treatment plant. And it was anticipated at the time that that was approved that that modular housing would be available by March of 2026. Due to some staffing changes at the city and other procurement issues that we're working through, that has been delayed. So there has been a request to provide a temporary housing allowance dating back to January 1st of 2026 until the anticipated move-in date of the modular housing. Right now, we have an expected date of November 1st, but we're hoping that it'll be done sooner than that. And the original recommendation on here was a temporary housing allowance in the amount of $1,000 per month. We have been doing a meet and confer with a bargaining group, and we would like to propose to amend that $1,000 to $1,500 per month. And I'll hand it over to City Manager Camelo.
Actually, I'll just stop there and say,
Colleagues, any questions, comments on this item? All right. It is an extremely important position. You know, we're all disappointed that the housing is not being developed as quickly as we want. There are a lot of issues a little bit beyond our control. Mr. Hall noted in his letter, you know, what is the reason? You know, obviously we want to build the housing more quickly than it's happening, but we are committed to doing that. This may be one of the more critically important positions in our city. Is that correct? And that position that we're talking about, and I think it is worthy of a housing allowance to keep that position competitive, because we've been out for quite a long time seeking to fill that position unsuccessfully until now. Correct, Ms. Kellogg? Can you speak further to that issue?
Yes, that's correct. We were recruiting for about 3 years for that position until we finally filled it. And in the interim, because of the certifications that are required for that classification, we did have to pay for an outside consultant to fill that role at a much higher cost to the city. It is a highly required certifications in that position.
All right. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this issue? we usually go to the podium, and that's, yeah.
My question would be, is the housing that to be provided without cost to the employee?
No, we're actually working through that still on developing a policy, but the employee would be paying a rent. It would be a below market rent. Our anticipation at this time is about $1,000 per month for the rent.
All right, because my point would be that $1,500 as a rent stipend, and who would rent a place here for $1,500? So $1,500 plus another $1,000 of their money probably work. So answers my question.
Yeah, good comment, good point to be made. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, please.
Sorry.
I didn't see it move, but yes, Mr. Belt, thank you.
Isn't there already an existing house up at that, in that location that was on a capital improvement project to rebuild maybe in 2016, 2017?
Yes, Mr. Leach, you can maybe fill in the details on why we're going in the direction we're going.
Yeah, the unit has kind of exceeded its useful life. We've looked at some quotes on kind of rehabilitating it to give it into a living condition, but we want something more than just living condition. So we're evaluating both a new structure in the same location or actually tearing the unit down to studs and kind of remodeling it. So those are the kind of the evaluations that were taking place right now.
But it has been on the CIP list for quite a while, hasn't it?
That predates me, so I'm not aware of that.
Okay. I think 2016, 2017.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't see any other folks wanting to come to the podium to comment on this. I'll close the public comment, bring it back to council for a discussion. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the temporary housing allowance of $1,500.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dizzy,
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
and Mayor Dorn.
Yes. Thank you for that. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you for the nuance and change and adjustment around that. Hopefully we'll move as quickly as possible to get that housing in place. This gives us authority to have that housing allowance until November, but hopefully we can get that done more quickly, but who knows? All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, thank you. All right, now is the time where we do a break in the action. We do a little bit of shifting here, and we go to baseball, Mr. Comello. Right at the time of spring training opening in, a few weeks here. For us baseball fans, it's a perfect time to talk about this. So we're as we promised at the outset, we're going to shift around a couple of the items, and we're moving on to new business, which was on our last calendar a couple weeks ago that we didn't get to. And we're on item 13.1, consideration and proposed approval of a resolution approving a facility use agreement between the city of St. Helena and the St. Helena Little League for the use of baseball and softball facilities located at Crane Park.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have Director Sylvester make the presentation.
Welcome, Director.
Thank you very much. Good evening, council, members of the public. We are going to go through just a little bit of background for this Little League lease agreement with them. So if I could, next slide, please, we'll get right into it for questions and discussion after. So originally there was a 1966 lease that was a 30-year term. So that took us to 2017. And then in 2018, we reached a 5-year agreement with automatic renewals of 5 years happening after that. And so with that, 2018, there was included renovation responsibilities added to that lease. New sod was put in 2021, and then renovated grandstands in 2023. Where we currently sit, we're currently on that automatic renewal of the 2018 lease that was looked at again in 2023. And in 2023 in the summer, Director Jans, who was previously here, along with parties of St. Helena Little League, looked to enter a new agreement and update the extended terms past that 5 years if we were able to. And those discussions have continued until December of 2025. Next slide, please. And so for just a little bit of an overview of what this facility use agreement looks like. So it's broken out into Little League seasons, postseason, and then off-season. And it's distinguished by that for use and scheduling of these facilities within the city and Little Leagues themselves. And so amongst that, the Little League season runs January through June. That's prepping, that's getting ready. The field's ready to go out there, and they have exclusive scheduling use during that time. City may use it when not being scheduled, and then of course, as you'll see in all of these, it remains open to the community when not in use. Postseason, St. Helena Little League has priority to use these during that July 1st through July 31st schedule. We coordinate with them for items such as 4th of July, and we get used for that as well, and then remains open to the public. And then during the off season, City does get those times of scheduling use, and that's when we run our recreation programs out there, sports leagues out there, and again, remains open to the public during that. Next slide, please. So maintenance responsibilities, and in the report, you'll see a longer list of these, but these are some key items on both the city and the Little League side that we're in this agreement looking for. So mowing the outfield year round and fields during off season, that is on the city side of it. Irrigation, managing trees, weed abatement, that lists on the city side. And then looking at the Little League side, maintaining mowing infields, prepare fields for play, minor irrigation repairs, keeping the grounds area clean, as well as inspecting any issues, reporting those to the city as well, and temporary signage that they do put up during season or off season as well. Next slide, please. So during this, also in the agreement, it does state that we'll have a steering committee, and this consists of representatives from St. Helena Little League, as well as the Parks and Recreation Division and Public Works, meeting at least twice annually, more if issues arise, if just updates on the facilities or anything of that sort needs to happen, we'll meet more than that, but at least twice annually. And then responsible for reviewing and setting facility standards, maintenance schedules, coordinating facility use, and ensuring regular communication throughout this term, the terms of this agreement as well. Next slide, please. And so really just to go through the term length on this so we can see where we're sitting currently. So the most recent current agreement, this is that one that we're in a reoccurrence of, is for 5 years with those automatic renewals. We are currently, as the city and a St. Helena Little League, requesting a 20-year term agreement. And so that is to just kind of have the continuity of this program continue, act in good faith, as well as support capital fundraising efforts on the St. Helena Little League side. In that agreement, you'll also see in 2018, there was a 90-day written termination notice for any reason on either side. And then currently, as it sits, we are proposing as a city a 1-year written termination notice for any reason. If the 1 year occurs during the middle of a Little League season, we will wait till the following end of the next Little League season to not just disrupt if they're in a current season or not the following 1 year mark. And so next slide, please. And so that was a synopsis for you with the whole agreement in the packet itself, but any questions or discussions, I'm happy to answer.
I'll look to my colleagues for any initial clarifying questions. I think it's fairly straightforward, but do you have any questions that are not going to take a lot of discussion at this point? Okay, then we'll take the time to open this for public comment. Anyone wishing to comment on this matter? We have received a fair amount of public comment in written form from several people in the audience. I'm sure some want to speak again tonight, and welcome. And thank you for your service to our community, all those who are coaching and operating Little League since 1961, the year of my birth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Vincent Georges. I'm the current president of St. Helena Little League. First, I would like to thank the staff and Ashley for working with us to negotiate a new agreement over the years. I think I'm the third, if not fourth president to be working on this. And recently I've contacted some members of the council to discuss the agreement, and I want to thank them for replying back to me. I really appreciate that. As you said, Little League has been a member of the St. Helena community since 1961, and we have a direct impact on over 250 of our youth, and it's all supported by community volunteers, and our games are not only enjoyed by those who play in them and coach them, but all the parents. So thousands of spectators over the season. A lot of the same ones, but they come multiple times. A little history. We, in the first beginning, we started by donating some money to be able, with the city, to purchase the land for Crane Park. We've raised and funded the improvements and donated them to the city. We also, as Ashley pointed out, take on quite a bit of the yearly maintenance alongside with the city. Thank you. And since COVID, we have spent nearly $500,000 renovating the facility without city funding. All of this has been done and donated to the city and community of St. Helena. And we're able to do this because of our strong and long-term partnership with the community of St. Helena and the city of St. Helena. The current agreement, which we negotiated and are almost happy with 100%, was sent to us by staff on December 11th, and it was stated in the email that we do not have additional items we're interested in negotiating, as we have exhausted all the avenues for each section. We were surprised with this email since we've always contested the language in the termination section of the agreement, specifically Section 12A, which states that either party may terminate this agreement for any reason with a 1-year notice. Previously, in the first 50 years, I understand this was not part of the previous agreement. And we made the staff aware that we would like continued negotiations on this in order to reach a mutually desirable option. The agreement does contain and establish the responsibilities, as it was pointed out earlier, of both parties, and should either party not fulfill those obligations, there is a mechanism for termination of the agreement. With that said, we just don't understand why the language of Section 12A does anything but weaken the partnership between Little League and the city and the community. We would like, excuse me, we are dedicated to continued growth of youth baseball and softball in St. Helena. And in those efforts, it hurts us in order to rally community support for planned long-term improvements. We're looking at items such as better lighting, closer restrooms, safety improvements, and other items. We can only infer that the inclusion of 12A without additional negotiation implies that staff wants Little League to have a 1-year recurring agreement instead of a long-term partnership of 20 years. We respectfully request that council recognize and value this long-term partnership between the city of St. Helena and St. Helena Little League and approve the proposed agreement included in the agenda, but delete the termination at will provision of Section 12A. Thank you.
Thank you. I like the short, sweet, direct ask. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is James Iyer. I'm the Vice President of St. Helena Little League. I'm a third generation here in this town. As a young man, I had the privilege of playing out here on Crane. Right now I have 2 boys that are in the system. For the last 5 years, I've been able to coach. And I would strongly like to advocate for the council to approve this sans 12A. St. Helena Little League is willing to commit to this community and its youth for the next 20 years. And we feel that the ask that the city do the same is not unreasonable. You know, I'm hopeful that someday my grandkids get to play on these fields. And so that's why I'm here today. I'd like to point out, similar to what Vince just did, that you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been poured into this field. A lot of that is recent money, and a lot of the families in this community have put a lot into that. The Hurdell family, the Minigan family, the list goes on and on. Leonardinis, the Gambles, the Blums, the Becks, the Davies. These are all long-term people here, and I'd hate to see their money go to waste. And the inability to sign that lease is really going to impact our ability to raise money to improve the facilities. So, in closing, I see what's happened at our neighbors. You look at Yountville and you look at Calistoga. Yountville just had their fields ripped up. They don't have a Little League program anymore. And Calistoga's program the last 3 years have had to send their minors and majors players, baseball players, to us to facilitate. We have a vibrant program here. You know, in recent history, we've never had as many signups as we have this year. This last Sunday, it was a crazy house at evaluations. We have so many kids, and we need to keep that going for our youth. So I just ask that the City Council take this into consideration and commit to the youth of St. Helena. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to Little League. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Ignacio Delgadillo. I was born and raised here in St. Helena, and now I have the privilege of raising my family here as well. And so my son, out of all the sports, has loved baseball. And so I'm lucky enough to be coaching teams with him. And I see the impact that it has on our community, not since just when I was a child, to go play at the fields, the other to watch the games, to go grab a hot dog at the snack shack or play butts up on the wall with the other kids if we weren't watching the game. And it just seems to me that there's such a rich history with baseball in this town that we would, or that the city would make a 20-year commitment with a 1-year backdoor on it, instead of, it doesn't even seem like a 20-year contract at that point. So I'm in favor with what Vince was saying about striking out, I think it's 12A, and it allows in the park and the program in general. So I urge you guys to strike out 12A. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. My name is Dan Wiley, 1010 Allison Avenue. I'm an attorney, but just to be clear, I'm not representing anyone. I'm just here because I, like these gentlemen, have two sons who play in Little League. And as an attorney, I understand why this clause is being put in there, because it keeps the city's options open with respect to that piece of land. But frankly, having that termination clause in there where it wasn't there for however many decades is simply bad business on the part of the city, in my opinion. It's bad business to inject a completely one-sided clause like that into a contract between two parties that have gotten along just fine, amicably, successfully, for many years. In fact, the success of the Little League owes to the longevity of that relationship. Imagine if you were a long-term renter of a house or an apartment, 50, 60 years, amicably with your landlord. In fact, you even fix up the place. You paint it. You fix the roof when it's broken. Everything's fine. Then one day the landlord hands you a new version of the lease that says, by the way, I can kick you out whenever I want for any reason or no reason at all. That would make sense for the landlord to put that clause in there. And if the landlord's attorney put that in there, I would say that's good lawyering, but it's bad business to do that. I would encourage the city to remove that clause so as to allow the good business that has been going on between the city and St. Helena Little League to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Helena Benassi Pupillo. I live in town. My son right here is a big Little League fan and participant. I just found out recently about this, and I'm here tonight to give my son a lesson of how this can happen in the United States, where people can discuss in a very civilized manner about important things at a local level and make a difference. So I'm very grateful. I didn't think I needed to even go through my mind and think about what this park means for this community, but that time came. So I just want to offer 3 points. The first is that coming from Europe, we have this idea of United States, of America, of what tradition is here, and baseball is certainly a major part of it for children to be able to walk, and walk is a very important part of this, to their local park feel safe and play right there without having to commute to Calistoga, Yountville, or any other location for that matter. It's just part of what this community is. It's at its essence, at its soul. The second point is that this Little League represent an incredible environment that nowhere else exists in Santa Helena. It's the closest thing that I can think of comparable to a piazza in Italy, where I of all age, from the grandparents to the friends to the brothers, sister, even teenager come, gather, watch the games, and be together with no organization needed except the watching the game. And it is powerful. I don't think in over 10 years of life here, I've experienced any other location where that happens so organically and so authentically. And the very last point I would like to make is that we all hear it left and right, that society is desperately looking as a whole for places for our children to gather with purpose, so that they're not indoor isolated in front of screens. And baseball field like this one is exactly what we need for that to happen. So please, whatever is the right way of saying about the clause, help us out. We love our park. We are all committed. We just want to keep it for the long run and know that our kids don't have to ask us every year, are things good? Because I hope that one day he will be actually coaching some team on the same field. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Council. Cameron Krebs, 1346 Sylvania Avenue. Thank you for your time. I have 3 boys that are all playing baseball in Little League. I myself and my brother played as well, so second generation, similar to many people have spoken before. And the families that have stepped up and the wineries and local businesses all up and down Main Street sponsoring teams, this is a very inclusive community organization. I don't think you could find a better one. There are many in town, but this is including so many different people. You get people coming to games that haven't had kids on teams for decades, and they're committed to coming and supporting the children. And if you haven't ever been to one of the opening days, I think it's one of the best little slices of America you could ever get. So that being said, it's very confusing to a lot of us how we've existed in a great partnership for decades on end. And under the current city staff administration, we've run into this bottleneck. It's just perplexing, and it makes no sense. And we've got some serious plans for the Little League to continue to improve the fields and improve the experience. And but we can't follow through with those plans with a 1-year termination clause. It's just not going to work, and our donors aren't going to step up. So please change this and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Boyd Dennington, 1530 Shipley Circle. And I just wanted to make a quick point of clarification. I am on the St. Helena Little League board. I'm the fields manager. And I just wanted to note that even in the off season, we pay for, and it's in our budget for the infield to be maintained. I have one son that plays in Little League. He's been here for several years. I would echo all the sentiments that everyone else said about, slice of Americana. Baseball is very important. We did start off, I'm not from here originally. We played baseball in a different community, and but I'm so glad to be here because these facilities are first class, especially compared to where we played before. And so I would echo what everyone else said. We need to have a long-term agreement in order to secure funding, and it's just better for our league and for our community. Essentially a 20-year lease agreement with a 1-year exit clause is the same thing as a 1-year lease with 19 options to extend, and that really doesn't, it handcuffs us. I get it from the city's perspective, it's a legal CYA, but we need to CY our own A. I would ask that you approve the contract without clause 12A, And for us, CYA stands for Community and Youth Athletics. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll bring it back to the. You got to move faster, attorney.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
No, go ahead.
DeVore,
Welcome.
1355 Grove Court. I happen to be counsel to Little League here as a coach and a parent, coaching Little Leagues since my son was in coach pitch. Been coaching for 8 seasons. I've been very proud to work with this organization through multiple presidents, multiple city managers, multiple community directors in getting this agreement to where it is. And I don't want to do this again. And so Little League has been an institution in St. Helena for 60 years. Harold Smith raised the money to buy Crane Park to build the fields. It is essentially an irreplaceable asset. And I think probably everyone in the city council knows that it was at least referenced as a potential housing site in at least one presentation to the city. So it was considered and rejected as a housing site. But with a 1-year termination agreement, it could become a housing site. And so the question for the three of you who are here today is, do we need to keep the option to turn the baseball fields into housing, or should we enter into a 20-year agreement with Little League and keep Little League? That's what's before you now. And I'm not going to quote James Earl Jones in Field of Dreams, but baseball has marked the time. It is a way of life in St. Helena. And so we, as the league, in order to continue that, respectfully request a real long-term partnership. That's why we're here. And it will help us raise money to improve the facilities. One thing that wasn't mentioned about the current agreement, the short-term one, was that the city was supposed to pay for the renovations. It didn't. The league did. The agreement was for the city to advance the funds and for the league to raise the money back over time. That never happened. The league just went out and did $500,000 worth of improvements to something it doesn't own. So the investment is there from the league. It's going to continue to do that. We'd like to build new restroom facilities. We're going to replace the fences. It's going to be great. But we need the backing from the city to do that. So thank you for your consideration. I really appreciate all the effort that went into this.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to say one thing in response to Mr. DeVore's comment is that in the general plan, we have a section called open space and recreation, and we need to preserve the open space and recreation for public health. I think you can see, I can't remember her a lot of the speeches tonight, is that youth sports and getting kids out of the screens and outside playing is really huge, especially for small towns like this with limited resources. So in our general plan, we need to preserve open space, recreation, and make sure that it stays here for generations to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me close the public comment and bring it back to the city council for further discussion, and if there's questions that need to be asked, that's also fine.
I have some questions.
Mr. Barrett.
This could be to Mr. Walsh. The last agreement, the 5-year agreement, 2018, did it have a termination clause? Can you speak to that?
Yes, the agreement that's been in place since 2018 has a 90-day termination clause.
And that's been in place till now?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. That is an important point because I think a number of speakers have implied that this is being injected now when in fact a 90-day termination clause without any reason has always has existed since 2018. And the remarkable thing for me is that the argument is that, well, we won't be able to raise funds, yet we have a clause in place since 2018, and we have spent presumably, I don't disagree with it, over $500,000 since COVID. So I would hate for folks to frame this as an anti-Little League sort of decision, but I get the point. I would ask folks to step into the shoes of all of the taxpayers in the city of St. Helena and the fiduciary responsibility that we hold as council members to be stewards of all of our property. It has nothing to do, frankly, with a love of the game and the value of the game. I played baseball my entire life, including Little League. I was one of the youngest Little League coaches in Stockton, California when I was growing up, to the dismay of many parents. Can you imagine Mr. Camelo me as a Little League coach? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've come a long way. So it's not that. I think there's a firm commitment on the part of the city, at least from your mayor, that Little League will be here forever. Forever. And this notion of, well, what ulterior motives or what little plans are out there, there are none. But I find it very difficult. I'm speaking for myself, and I'll like to hear from my colleagues. There's all kinds of things that can happen in life, and you have to have that flexibility in a contract. It's not, this is a public property, and you have to have the flexibility if something were to happen. And I don't know what that would be. I mean, I give that commitment that we can't act unreasonably or capriciously or arbitrarily if there was some reason to bring an end to the contract. And I can't even foresee of it, that we'd have to come back to a council and make findings. It would have to be a really, really urgent public purpose at that point. And at least that's how I see it. And we've had the 90 days in there all along. So it's not like your new council or your new staff is injecting this kind of language in the contract. I know people are going to, hate me, but that's how I see it. That's responsible government. And I think we can continue the partnership forever. I don't see any reason to not have that partnership if both parties are working in good faith. So I'm a little hesitant. I can be convinced to do something else here, but to not have a termination clause would be, to me, a failure of my duty as a fiduciary, frankly. And maybe I'm clouded by my legal judgment. I've been practicing law for 38 years, but that would be a hard sell for me, frankly. But I would like to hear out others, because I'm sure there are other points of view on this. Thank you.
I'll give it a shot. Okay, first of all, thank you to Little League and to everyone showing up. It is a great partnership, and I think that Little League here is what, I've only lived here 6-7 years. It is what makes St. Helena a great place to live for families, and we do talk a lot about our need to continue to, keep the families we have and attract new families. When you come into town, you see that truck with the Little League thing, and it is a reason to live here. I think that point about there not being many other places like it, I should say I do have a child who plays Little League, but I can drop him off there for the weekend, and I don't think there's many places in the world you can do that. So for a town that is struggling where it's really important to send a message to the community that we care about our families, this feels like an important values-based decision. I wanted to ask about there are a number of termination clauses in there, and the way, I don't know, Mr. Walsh, if you could go over that, but it's hard for me to see how I know the case, well, what if Little League only has 5 players left? Would they still be playing? I can't see how they would be able to continue. It seems like the clauses are so strict, they would be able to, it would terminate.
Sure. So there are provisions in there that if they were to dissolve or if they weren't to carry out their obligations under the contract, that it could be terminated, as they could terminate it if we failed to do the same. So those do exist. So if it no longer was a going enterprise, then yes, it would terminate. And if they weren't fulfilling their duties under the contract in terms of field maintenance and all that, then yes, it could also contract. But the termination without cause provision is essentially, it's to grant the flexibility that Mayor Doring is talking about.
And then I guess my one thing, it's great to have this council say, we love it and we'll always keep it, but we won't always be here. And so I guess
I recognize that, of course. I know
that's
I won't always be here.
I think it's a values-based thing. It's hard for me to see how we wouldn't want that to be a part of our town. And so I would feel strongly about sending that message to the community.
All right. Well,
I think
Mr. Mayor.
from my standpoint, there's got to be some compromise. We can both get what we're looking for here. I'm not a lawyer. I've stayed in Holiday Inn Express, but that doesn't count. I love baseball. I'm a Mariners fan, so I don't have any hope. But I'd like to give some to everybody else.
Are they still a team?
So painful. Is there, Mr. Mayor, this is your field, from a legal standpoint, do you have any ideas that could bridge the gap and accomplish what the town wants and still keeps us whole within reason, and addresses your concerns that are, frankly, I'm in government too somewhere else, and we're putting these clauses in for 90 days on everything. I just want to acknowledge that.
Well, the clause is really bare bones, strict, straight, no nuance in it at all. I see the value of the comfort language that you're looking for. It may not be comfortable enough, but I can see additional language, Mr. Walsh, on that 1 year clause that talks about having the council make findings, having a really public purpose, either, just an urgent financial purpose, something that's just really dramatic where it'd have to come back to that council, and that we could not act arbitrarily and capriciously and just do it willy-nilly. That to be, something that says something highly unusual or happen, and that's really what I'm concerned about. And I frankly don't see that happening, but there's always a risk, and we're a risk. I'm risk averse. I want to cover that. Is there, and I don't want to negotiate here in public, but is there a way to deliver fairly strong comfort language that says, we need to have this flexibility, but we recognize that there would have to be findings made by a city council that these issues are so urgent that we really have no choice but to terminate? Something like that. I don't know.
I mean, you can always craft language like that. I guess what I would say to that is that when you have that type of language, sometimes it can lead to further confusion later on as to what folks were talking about. Mm-hmm. There is any termination of the contract would have to be done by the council, so it would have to come to whoever was in your seats at that time, mm-hmm. and it would have to be done in public. People would have the opportunity to speak. It's up to you to decide how likely you think it would be that you would turn around and terminate Little League's contract. I would be surprised to see that, but you never know what's going to happen. So you could come up with language like that, Mayor, I think is what I'm saying, but I just don't know how helpful it is in terms of going beyond kind of the bounds of the contract. You could say we're going to make findings, but really, I think if it's going to come to a public process, whoever is in your seats at the time is going to have to, account to the public and make sure that they understand that this is being taken seriously regardless of what's in the contract.
All right. And I suspect that the Little League is probably think that's a non-starter, and I understand this. The these sort of things are very difficult. It really is up to my colleagues and I, that you have any other ideas about how we maintain the flexibility we need, but also providing the comfort. I don't know if anybody, Mr. DeVore, would you be willing to accept something like that, or one more shot before we go back, some comfort language? I call it comfort language, and you know what I mean by that. But
I don't want to negotiate in public either.
No,
but
I don't think so.
I mean, from what I hear, your comments is that if there was a termination, it would be for cause, for the city's purposes. And the clause as drafted as termination without cause for any reason. And so those are two different things. And termination for cause. I mean, the city can always condemn a contract. It has that power. And so.
Well, then we'd have to go back to the contract and look at what for cause means, right? What kinds of issues would fall into the cause. So that would be the same thing.
It's good to be the king, right? You have the power of eminent domain. If you want to condemn the leaks, you can take it, right? And you could cut off the contract at any time, and you have to follow the process and make findings. Yeah. And that sounds like what you're talking about, which is essentially, have a process where the city council would have to make findings in order to terminate the Little League. That's the eminent domain process. I mean, it's the same thing you're describing.
You do that just like this, like there's nothing to that, right? That
No, it's a very complicated
as an
process.
eminent domain lawyer, that is a very fraught process.
Absolutely.
And goes on and on and on. And it's very costly. That's not what I want.
Well, but I kind of sounded like what you described, which was, come to the council. I mean, why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this and we can have a conversation not in public? And
All right. I'm just, if there's some receptiveness to it, I want to pursue that. I'm trying to be a good steward here of this land, and I'm listening to the points that are made. I don't disagree with anything that the Little League has said with respect to the value of it and the need for this clause to be eliminated. I get that, but I also see myself as somebody who's representing the entire city of St. Helena and our taxpayers, and knowing that something could happen in year 15, that the state of California decided in its infinite wisdom to do something to our city. And it's like, oh, well, I guess we have to terminate because we have no choice in that matter. Who knows what that would be?
But again, that would be for cause, right, and not without cause.
Well, I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. All right. Do you want to maybe continue this matter and have that language, or do folks want to make a motion and go in that direction?
Am I hearing that you're giving direction to go back to the drawing, or to meet again with the Little League and work it out? And if that is, my question is, who is meeting? Who? Well, maybe that's not appropriate.
Well, our staff and whoever is, if there's some, really specifically on the comfort language, if there's more comfort language there, or more defined incidents of what cause is, And
So, I would just say, the way that you're thinking about it is, I think,
wrong.
If you want us to do this, then I think we need some direction, because I think what I'm hearing from you is that you want the city to have to make some findings as to this is a significant event that you would have to, where you would go forward with this. I think condemning out the contract, I guess there's a question as to whether or not this is a real property interest or not. I tend to not think of a use agreement as being something that offers a real property interest. I think it would just be if we terminate, it would just be a breach of contract action myself. But that being said, I think if you want us to go back to the drawing board, then I think, we came to you with our recommendation. I would say, I don't recommend that you go beyond the 1 year. I've looked at, just on our system at my firm, I looked at Little League agreements. I mean, it was consistent with what Councilmember Barrick said. I stopped looking at the first 10, and the longest I found was a 180-day termination provision for an agreement like this, for a use agreement. So
I'm familiar with most of these.
Sure.
I've seen a lot of them online also.
Right. So if you want us to go back to the drawing board, I think we need some direction from a consensus of council as to what you want us to.
What do you think, Mr. Barrick, or in terms of the direction?
Is there, and again, this is going to show that I'm not a lawyer, but is there a clause that we could make that, hey, if for some reason, right, in the future, nobody can predict it, somebody wanted to trigger the end of the contract, not for cause, that we reimburse investments over a period of time that have been, so you can make them whole. And it also is a bit of a poison pill where it makes it a little more difficult to be capricious, to have a group do it willy-nilly. There's more skin in the game as an alternative.
Well,
It's
yeah,
okay to say it's stupid.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead.
You could certainly draft something like that if that's what council wanted. It would be a little more, I think, time and staff intensive to monitor that, to monitor what improvements they're making, the costs, getting, keeping track of what that is, all of that. So.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, maybe this is taken offline. I would recommend that you lead that up with your knowledge base.
Well, I'm not
maybe
interested in
Vice
leading
Mayor.
that up because I wouldn't support reimbursement, but I would support language that provided sort of the reasoning behind why the city would ever terminate the contract. Okay. And it's I think in my legal mind, it's beyond the quote cause that we normally have. That's really a breach. Those are breaches by the Little League, and I'm thinking of the unknowns that are beyond all of our control. Those are the things I'm thinking about.
So what I'm hearing is you want some sort of clause in there. So I get the eminent domain thing, but I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like that would be a huge process, but almost like the same spirit of that, but would make the process more streamlined.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm supportive of that.
Read the room.
Who said that?
I did. If you want to kick me out, that's fine. This is ridiculous.
Mr. Mayor?
I appreciate the comment, but it's not very helpful. So, Mr. Comello.
I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, that perhaps staff can work with the Little League and come back one last chance to you, to the council. I'm happy to, if the two council members here, well, Vice Mayor and council member wants to let us touch base with them during the next few weeks as we talk with our colleagues in the Little League. There may be another approach.
All right. I don't want to get in an extended conversation about reopen just for you, and then we'll just go because we have a lot of folks on a lot of items tonight. Yes.
30 seconds. If and when you do go back to talk about it, they're called arbitration clauses. I'm sure in your 38 years of practicing law, you've come across these. It's another way of doing it. There seems to be a divide. Arbitration would be somewhere in the middle.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. Okay. Mr. Walsh, do you have at least a little bit more, and Director, do you both have a little bit of more clarity there, or no? Comfort language. I don't think we have a consensus on the reimbursement.
I understand what
Yeah.
you're getting at, Mayor.
Yeah.
I don't really hear that there's consensus on that. If
Okay.
you want us to come back.
Okay.
with
Is
language
there
on
not
that.
consensus on that? Then I'll look for a motion one way or another, up or down on the contract, and we'll move on. That would be fine.
Let me see if I can try.
Okay.
I make a motion to go back to the Little League on this item to come to an agreement that is more mutually agreeable, and maybe I heard discuss with some council members in that process. Is that what I tried it?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to continue the conversation with the Little League and see if we can work out some more language that gives comfort to the Little League that it will be there for another 65 years, which I'm fully supportive of. I really am. I mean, I couldn't say that more often than I can, but I understand the concern and the frustration on the part of the Little League leadership. But I do appreciate the Little League leadership. There's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
Mayor Doring.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to item 13.2, consideration and approval of a resolution providing approval to apply for a land and water conservation fund grant to convert the lower reservoir properties into a public park.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public. Continuing discussion on city-owned properties. I'm presenting on item 13.2, Lower Reservoir Park Grant Application. This is an aerial view of the city's old drinking water reservoir located around 2800 Spring Mountain Road. I am coming tonight to request comments, consideration, and the possible approval of a resolution for staff to continue an application to secure grant funding to convert this into a public, accessible outdoor recreation area. Next slide, please. The grant opportunity is from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. It's a state-administered federal grant that provides match funding for projects to convert unused land to public use and outdoor recreation and outdoor park space. Staff submitted an inquiry about the program and an initial pre-application in the fall of 2025. Next slide, please. A little background about the application and some specifics. It's a biennial program. It's on which we are currently in. There would be also another opportunity to apply for the grant in 2 years. The grant provides 50% cost reimbursement for all projects. The main contingent for the grant is that the property would be deed restricted into perpetuity to provide for public access. If at any time the city decided to restrict the public access, the city would be obligated to substitute comparable land as part of the agreement for the grant funding. If awarded, the project would be delivered in 5 years, and the strategy of the city staff currently would be to maximize the project to secure significant grant funds due to the encumbrances the properties would be liable for. Next slide, please. Some of the city considerations include that this project will require a significant parcel reconfiguration. I'll talk about that on the next slide. We're reviewing consistency with this proposal with the Parks Master Plan. If we did proceed and were awarded the project, we'd be utilizing park impact fees. There's more details about that in the staff report. As well, we are seeking neighborhood consensus and support. We would also be obligated with new park operations, as well as considerations for safety, security, and emergency access. Next slide, please. Regarding the parcel modifications, currently the city owns 4 parcels that are oddly configured but contain multiple facilities: the reservoir itself, our city water tank, the dam, a bunch of old infrastructure, a couple access points, and then portions of Spring Mountain Road. The exhibit on the left is the current configuration. The exhibit on the right is a conceptually proposed configuration which would kind of isolate the city infrastructure from what would be eligible for a park. Next slide, please. In our initial application and kind of internal discussions, the centerpiece was really restoration of this pathway that extends around the perimeter of the reservoir. It's about a half mile, and it was at one point an access road. It would take some cleaning up, and then, of course, creating a nice trail. We'd have to figure out how to connect the lower portion with the top of the dam on the west side, on the east side. We'll also look at connectivity from both Spring Mountain Road and Bieber Road. Next slide, please. In our discussions, as part of the preliminary application, we put together a site plan, just a very conceptual level of what the park could could look like, some of the elements, and in our efforts to maximize the project, we've come up with ADA parking, bathroom facilities, shade structure, a dock, benches and tables, signage, and then, of course, the trail restoration as well. Next slide, please. This is just a very preliminary approval request. If the resolution is approved tonight, we would complete the application. We have gone through a few revisions. I've been working with Ashley to bring this to the Parks and Rec Commission to review, provide input. We will also have an ambitious stakeholder and resident engagement, which would include a community field trip, open house at the reservoir, and of course, bringing more refined scope of the park and the project in total back to the City Council. If we receive the resolution tonight, and possible award for the grant, there's also many other steps that we would need to take, which would include getting a designer to design the park, and there's still quite a few steps of review, approvals, and public engagement that would be needed. So, next slide. I think that's it. Any questions or comments?
Any initial questions, clarifying questions or comments from my colleagues? All right. I saw a hand up. We're going to open public comment, and so if anybody has a question, you can direct it to the staff. You can approach the podium, and that's how we'll do it. You'll approach the podium, and then you can just ask your question, and our staff will keep track of the questions, and we'll hopefully get some answers as the meeting goes on.
My name's Donna McCornack, and I was on the Parks and Recreation Commission in the 70s and 80s.
Thank you.
And we addressed this very lower reservoir as a park. And we did walks around it and checked it out and thought it was a great idea. And the thing that killed us dead in the water was liability about do you have to have lifeguards there? Having a water body such as that, and I see your little deck going out to the water. And anyway, it died. So I think it's a great idea, but how do you figure that out?
All right, good question, good comment.
Yeah, so like I said, this is all very preliminary. The water component is something we definitely need to explore, but we kind of liken the approach to something like Hennessy, where we have public access. It's not promoted to swim or anything. It's restricted, right? But I also likened it to maybe like Spring Lake or something similar, where the water's available for certain uses. It's not necessarily promoted by the city, but those are all items that we definitely just need to explore further.
Indeed. Others?
Hi, I'm Deanna Griffin, and I'm speaking as a resident of St. Helena. I'm also not an attorney, and I'm also not a Parks and Rec aficionado, but I am a human who loves the outdoors. And I can plainly see that this is a request that you approve the process of applying for a grant. Grants sound awesome. They are free money. They're just sitting there waiting for us to take them unless they come with the obligation. We've already invested some staff time. We've invested decades of energy, I just learned. And I think that if I read correctly, there's a roughly $500,000 match that the city would provide plus $163,000 of pre-application cost. I understand that park fees could cover this. In a city of limited staff capacity, especially right now, limited resources that are, and also current and future obligations still under exploration, and the definition of what the city needs financially in the middle and long term, I simply would ask, despite our general plan that cites a call for outdoor and recreation space use and improvement, despite the still not final parks, rec, and trails plan that is underway and will sync nicely with this in the future, and despite the general community appetite for the outdoors evidenced by ballparks, leagues, and all of our trails and walking desires, I can't help but wonder if now is the time. If in 2 years one can apply for the same grant, in 2 years' time we'll know a great deal more about the city's obligations. We'll possibly have additional staff, fewer need to hire for project management, and this does sound like a complex project with many open questions. Is now the time to commit the energy and money to exploring those open questions? I look forward to going to this park in the future, but is now the time? And I do have a final question, which is that I learned today by Googling it, the term land substitution. And I'm not the expert, but if it has to do with designating some land as open public recreational space in lieu of other open public recreational space, I simply want to put the question forward. Is there anything that the public would need to know about land substitution and this proposal? And that is a genuine, totally uninformed question. And someone could explain to me what land substitution means better, and maybe this is an inappropriate question. So I do just ask, as a resident who is all about supporting the city, the staff, the council, and my fellow residents on making the most of what we have now, is this the right time? Thank you.
All right, thank you for that.
Yeah, I have two comments to respond to that. The pre-application costs are reimbursable, so those aren't costs that come out of our pocket or are costs associated with our current staff time or proposed staff time for the project. For this, we would, have a consultant do the design. The lift on staff currently would be on the minimal side, I would say that. With regard to the substitution, so I did talk about that in a little briefly early on. So by participating in the grant, we're taking the federal money. The land becomes encumbered, deed restricted, perpetual public access into perpetuity for however many acres that is. I think it was like 15 or something. So if at any point in the future that we decide to reactivate the reservoir, we need to close the reservoir, restrict access, we'd be obligated to provide equal sized land, whatever the acreage is, as a substitute for the park if it ever went offline. And we would be liable for that. So that is an important consideration that speaks to this substitution.
Mr. Barrett.
Question, how long does the grant go for? Every year?
It's every two-year cycle.
2-year cycle. What happens if we go into this, we get 2 years, and that's great, and then we go back, we've encumbered the land, and then we don't get the grant? Are we then released from the penalties in perpetuity?
Absolutely. So the actual agreement, the encumbrances to the land, those would all be kind of the final piece to the puzzle before the reimbursement starts happening. So all that would need to be in place before, as a final approval for the grant award.
No, meaning maybe I wasn't clear, and my apologies. So I get it, we get the grant, we have to do the deed, that's part of the deal. But then on the 2-year renewal, we don't get renewed.
No, I don't think that's what that means.
So then it's just in perpetuity. It
That-
might only be for
The
2 years.
2-year cycle is just asking for grants every 2 years. They're available every 2 years, but that's not, we don't have to do anything every 2 years. Once we get it, that's our one-time deal.
It's a one-time deal.
Yes.
So for 2 years, we'd be signing off perpetuity.
No, the grant availability only is on a 2-year cycle.
Right.
So we're in the middle of a current cycle of availability. If we wanted to forego this, then it would be available in 2 more years.
Okay, I guess I'm looking at the ongoing costs, right? So once you get a park, as we know, you have to invest in it.
Right.
In perpetuity. We don't have a 15-acre, we're a little short on land in town, right, if we wanted to do something different. So we'd basically be committing long-term.
Absolutely.
My question is, well, hey, we were in the 2-year cycle, the 2-year grant. We get money for 2 years, but there's a potential problem, then we'll be on our own. But we'll have locked up the whole piece, and it doesn't seem like the
I think
best deal.
just to clarify, I think once we're awarded the grant, we have 5 years to deliver and
Okay.
to expend that money and being reimbursed what we're eligible for reimbursement. So the 2-year cycle is different from the time that we're awarded funding and we execute an agreement with the funding agency to deliver the project.
Okay, so there's no ongoing maintenance. This is just like a one-time, the capital improvements.
Correct. The city will have to bear the ongoing maintenance of the trail, and whether that's done through Parks Division staff, Adopt a Trail program,
This
that
was
kind of
sounding
thing.
so great. Okay.
It's a grant. It's quote-unquote free money.
Right.
Yeah, in the staff report, I put together a project that's roughly $1 million. So it would be 500,000 grant supported and then another 500,000 from park impact fees for the park, for the initial project.
Vice Mayor.
I want to say thank you for getting us here, and I think it is exciting. I've been out there. I was on the original walking trails group, and that was one of the places that we visited, and it is pretty magical out there. I know there's not as much parking as we might like, but there's enough. And then I've heard also, and so it's a great spot for the walking trails. It's come up in the water committee that someone has this vision of boating or whatever it is out there. So it is. I think it is a pretty cool opportunity. We're not We're not committed at this. This is not a commitment.
No,
so it's an explore.
This is, you're giving us permission to continue with the application.
Okay, so that's important. I think also it did strike me that it is a good chunk of the park's impact fee, and so I would think that would be a good conversation for the Parks and Rec Commission to make sure they're behind it. But I think that was, that's on there. I wanted to say, a couple of little points here. There's Walk St. Helena. That's a new nonprofit raising money for trails. So we could, and I know that's right. They've been out there. That is now the time. I would say yes, because my experience is that grants, even though it's been happening for 2 years, and then all of a sudden, every time you've decided we'll just wait 2 years, it's not going to be there. They do go away. So it sounds kind of exciting and non-committal with pre-application fees reimbursed and not too much work. I think it's exciting. It's a gorgeous spot in St. Helena. People don't get to go.
If I can add to that, Mr. Mayor. So
Please do.
I'm completely behind this. We need to apply right now and move forward. I have no concerns about that. But Deanna's point is well taken. We often get money for initial investments. We can also oftentimes raise money for capital expenditures. The challenge is paying for them on ongoing maintenance. We have lots of parks already that we don't maintain. And it's not because we don't want to maintain them, we just don't have the resources. And so I am nervous about a future city manager having to find money to maintain this park that we got one-time money to build. There are other locations in the city that I would love to see a park instituted at a wastewater treatment plant, also along the river. We are blessed with some really nice locales. My suggestion is that should we get this grant, that we have a very focused conversation about how do we raise the money for ongoing maintenance. Otherwise, we may want to say thank you, but no thank you.
Hear, hear.
What do you think, Mr. Barrick? Are we ready to call the question here, or?
I think so.
I know you have concerns about ongoing maintenance, of course.
For sure.
And costs that we don't have
But
lined up yet.
I think Vice Mayor brought up a good point that this doesn't commit us. The application, we have time to study this and look at it. But yes, I do have issues with the ongoing cost, but also locking something up with a deed, right? It's locking up way beyond our decision. But exploration, I make a motion to adopt the staff resolution.
Second.
All right. Look to the clerk. There's a motion and a second to adopt the staff's recommendation, which is the resolution.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
Mayor Doring.
Yes. All right. We looks like we're on to 13.3. How is my council feeling? It would be a good time for a break. A cupcake break? Open up that wine because you know I need it. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to reconvene. All right, thank you. We're on to item 13.3, but I do want to announce, and I apologize for doing this so late in the meeting. We have received on 13.4 some letters that raise questions about fire apparatus, fire access, and those kinds of things, and both a fire analysis and some letters from attorneys that have raised some issues of public safety that I think rather than getting into that conversation, I'd rather have our attorney have time to respond to those letters. I conferred with Mr. Walsh, and he said he would need a little bit more time. A couple letters came in fairly late, and so that matter will be continued, I guess is what I'm saying there. It just is it's not a time that the issues are so critically important to us that it would be unfair to have a full-blown conversation without at least having some discussion from our city attorney. So I know a lot of you are here on that, but I think it's better that we do it that way.
So Mayor, if I could just to follow the formalities of this.
Yeah,
so
and if I got it wrong, please let me know, Mr. Walsh. That was my understanding.
No, I think the question that you raised was concerned about. I did provide a written response to the DeVore letter and
That's right.
and the email that we received yesterday. While I was responding to that, we received a letter from Mr. Wolf, another attorney. I have not had a chance to provide a written response to that yet, and so I think in light of that, you were thinking that we could continue it. If you want to do that, I'd ask that the council make a motion and second to continue to the next meeting. And I would just remind the council that that with this, we have a limitation of 5 meetings or 5 hearings when we can do this, that we can employ to consider this. We're at 3 right now, so we have 2 more. And then in addition to that, as I've mentioned to the council previously, because this is subject to a specific CEQA exemption that limits the time in which we can act under the Permit Streamlining Act, we have to act on this item prior to March 10th, or the item is automatically deemed approved. So,
all right.
So those are actions that you would need to take. But with that said, I would ask that you entertain a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to not confer with my council colleagues. I do want to confer with my council colleagues about that, in terms of whether we continue on with it. I mean, I haven't suggested we don't, but I can hear you out in terms of why we should continue on with it or wait. It's a question on my mind. Again, I'm a lawyer. I see lawyer letters coming in. I don't see a response by our council. I feel a little, that we should at least give our council the chance to respond on that. But I do note that we have some limitations in terms of time. There's no doubt about it. Mr. Camelo wanted to say something, and then I'll turn to my council colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure, just to confirm that you're talking about 11.1?
What am I talking about? I'm talking about Spring Grove. I now realize that thank you for the correction. I was thinking it was the last one because of the confusion about the different agenda items. I am talking about 11.1. I apologize for that. That matter let's hear out my council colleagues as to whether that matter should go forward tonight with the information we have or not.
I'd be more comfortable waiting for our attorney to weigh in on the last letter around the fire safety components. We want to make sure to get this right and that no stones uncovered. So I'd appreciate that personally.
All right. Vice Mayor.
Agree.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to continue.
I make a motion to postpone or continue item 11.1 to the next meeting?
Okay.
You should take public comment on this, Mayor.
Yeah, I'll open it for public comment on just that, on the matter, please, on the motion.
Why this counts as a meeting, a third meeting. We haven't had a meeting. There are 5. We've had 2. We're not having a meeting on it now. So it would seem to me that the next meeting would be number 3.
Mr.
Can you
Walsh.
answer that, please?
So I don't think that's correct. You can make that argument, but no, I think under the law, every time that we agendize this for consideration, it counts as a meeting. If you want to give people the opportunity to have public comment on this, they're welcome to. But I would count it as a meeting, and notwithstanding that fact, you still have the March 10th.
Time is not of the essence here.
Are you suggesting that, are you suggesting that we take public comment on the item in general tonight?
That's not my question. My question is
No,
this.
no,
I'm sorry.
Well, no.
You're changing the subject. The question is why this would count as meeting number 3. I didn't ask about taking public comment. I asked a simple question. And it would seem that your attorney could answer the question.
I understand that. I'm getting to that point, sir.
Well, why would we be taking public comment on what? Whether this is meeting number 3 or not? What are we
No.
taking public comment on?
No, you were
If
not
we
listening.
take public comment, then it becomes number 3. Why would we step up and take public comment?
All right, thank you. Your
Thank you.
point is well taken.
Thank you.
I understand that. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it so we understand it. I don't.
I understand it.
Is he going to respond to your question before I speak?
Maybe-
She can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my understanding is that this is going to count because it's on the agenda and it's not pulled. That's my understanding. It could have been pulled before the meeting, and then that would not have counted. However, being that this is counting, I think we need to use this meeting. And if you want to continue it after discussion, then you continue it then.
And that's the point I was trying to get to before I was interrupted. I wanted to analyze that with Mr. Walsh, and then I would also bring that back to my council colleagues if they wanted to continue to take public comment.
I understand.
And I'm okay with that, but yeah, it's a point that I'm trying to resolve, and I think you're right that it makes sense.
This is an important meeting. If it counts, we should use it. And the issues that are before us, I'm sorry, but it was brought forth in public comment months ago and then weeks ago. So to not be prepared today to speak about something is, I wonder, why is it just addressing a lawyer's letter when it counts, when public members brought this up weeks ago, and now you're saying you didn't have enough time to digest it now, and it just came about. But no, it didn't just come about. It was spoken at the December 2nd public hearing. It was presented in public comment multiple times. It was actually discussed in January 21.
We understand the point. I think we're trying to resolve that.
So it's not a surprise. We're all ready. We're all ready.
Your
Please don't
counsel's not ready. I'm not ready to weigh in on the questions that were raised by an attorney today. I'm not ready for that, and I think that would not be a good use of the council time to go forward. But in terms of the question of continuing to take public comment and using this hearing for that point, that's a question for my colleagues. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
So Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
What the Government Code Section 65905 says that if the city continues the hearing to the subject on another date, the continued hearing shall count as one of the 5 meetings allowed under the section. So I do think it will count. So
Okay.
if you want to take public
right.
comment or discuss it in detail, you can always continue it.
All right. Okay, we're going to take that up when we go back to that item, and we're going to take public comment, but we are out of order at this point because we need to deal with 13.3, and then we'll go to 11.1. All right, so let's get back to 13.3 as we said we would do at the beginning of the meeting. I was trying to make it as convenient for folks as possible so they wouldn't have to sit around. But now you do because it's an opportunity for you to give public comment. And I think that's a good point. We should use the meeting appropriately if it's going to count. So, all right. 13.3. Mr. Camello.
I'm just going to introduce Admin Services Director Kellogg to make the presentation.
All right, good
Thank you.
evening, Mayor and council members. As you know, Director DeRosa has provided notice of retirement effective April of 2026 and will be on leave beginning February 7th of 2026. As a result of the department's workload and critical oversight that this position provides, staff has determined that temporary leadership support is necessary while we recruit for a replacement. The proposed interim incumbent, Jim McCann, is a retired annuitant with an extensive background in managing and directing and overseeing operations of similar departments. He has more than 36 years of experience in community development and municipal leadership, including 21 years as a city manager and 15 years serving as a planner and planning director in multiple jurisdictions. To appoint him as a retired annuitant, because he's receiving CalPERS benefit, the city must comply with specific statutory requirements under the government code. The first is under Government Code Section 21221G, which is interim support services provided during a leave of absence. This authorizes a CalPERS retiree to provide temporary specialized services to a public agency under contract. Council action is required to adopt a resolution certifying the need for these services and approving a professional services agreement consistent with Section 21221G. The second part is once Maya is officially retired, officially retired in April of 2026, the Community Development Director position will become vacant. At that time, Government Code Section 21221H authorizes the appointment of a retired annuitant to a vacant position on an interim basis. This also requires council action to adopt a separate resolution ratifying the appointment of the retired annuitant as the interim director of community development and approving an interim employment agreement pursuant to Section 21221H. And we're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that brief and but comprehensive report. Are there any clarifying questions for my colleagues at this point on the matter? All right. Open the matter for public comment. All right. Seeing no one approach, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the council for Mr. Hale. Welcome.
Hey, I had some comments prepared, but I'd like to get some clarity whether what game we're playing tonight. Is this about the meeting, or is this comment supposed to be about the fact that we all learned a lot about Little League and potential parks and all these interesting, valid things, but we could have been told before this, or at the very beginning of this meeting, that it was going to be adjourned or continued. I would like that question answered before, so we can prepare to either get into our comments or just talk about the process of this continuance.
Well, first of all, you're on the wrong agenda item. We're talking about the interim planning director position.
Oh, so sorry about that.
And after that, so that you know, there was some. I agree that there was some missteps there in terms of whether we're going to hear 11.1 or not. We are going to hear 11.1 to the extent that we're going to allow public comment on 11.1
Okay.
after this matter.
Okay, so officially I haven't used my comment for that item, just for the record. But
right.
I did get a little
All right. But you raise a good point. There's a misstep on the part of your mayor in terms of making that clear. I could have made it more clear. I did not have enough information at the time, and I apologize for that for folks who have stayed. But you're going to be able to make public comment, so staying here is a good idea. Thank you so much. All right. Mr. McCann,
Yes.
are you testifying on behalf of yourself?
Well, I just wanted to introduce myself.
Okay.
I was concerned for a moment when I saw the gentleman come up. I thought he had a comment about the agreement, so I'm relieved. So I'm Jim McCann, and I am the retired annuitant that you've been speaking about. I had the pleasure of helping St. Helena for 6 months or so before you hired your current city manager as the interim city manager. I live outside of Napa. I've been down valley for almost 40 years. And so I'm familiar with issues in the Napa Valley. I worked as city manager and planning director in Calistoga when the mayor was a council member up in Calistoga before he moved down to St. Helena. And so I'm familiar with Up Valley issues as well. And I look forward to helping the city over the next few months while you guys are recruiting for a replacement for Maya. So happy to be here and looking forward to listening to the rest of your agenda and then helping out on finding some...
And you're welcome to make a public comment on that agenda, so thank you.
I think I'll save that. Any questions for me?
Any questions at this point?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
All right. Anyone else want to talk about this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. I didn't think there would be a whole lot of controversy about this one. We'll bring it back to the discussion. Folks ready? There are two different resolutions, so I assume two different motions would have to be made, right? I guess we can make them both, but I'll look to my colleagues to look at the two resolutions as described under 13.3. We can take one at a time if the council's ready.
Okay, one at a time. I make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the city to contract with our retired annuitant, Jim McCann, to provide interim support services during a leave of absence pursuant to Government Code Section 21221, effective February 7th, 2026.
I will second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the first resolution. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dietsky,
Yes.
Mayor Doring.
Yes. All right. And now we have the other resolution, and welcome either one of you making a motion on that.
Okay. I make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the city to ratify the city. How is this any different? The city manager's appointment of James McCann as interim director of community development pursuant to Government Code Section 21221, effective April 4th, 2026, and to approve an interim employment agreement with James McCann for service as interim director of community development following the retirement of the current director.
All right.
I second that.
All right.
Vice Mayor Dietsky,
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
and Mayor Doring.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Those motions passed unanimously. Welcome aboard, Mr. McCann. Looking forward to working with you, and I can vouch for Mr. McCann. I've known him for a while. I worked with him in Calistoga. And the 6 months he was here in his prior stint, he did an excellent job by all accounts, including my own. All right. Okay. Now we're back to the Spring Grove matter. 11.1. We might want to just briefly introduce the matter, and then we're going to take public comment.
Sure. So just to clarify, staff did have a staff report prepared, which they can give if you like. If you just want to take public comment, then I think it would be helpful to take that public comment and then ask staff for what further direction you want. I know you want a written response to the letter from Mr. Wolf.
Right.
So we can provide that.
All right.
And anything else you want after you take public comment would be helpful.
Okay. We just want to dive right into public comment, correct? Let's do it. Let's open public comment and start taking it.
Good evening. I'm Joshua Park. Can you just elaborate procedurally? So we're continuing the meeting. and we have people with prepared comments. We have a staff report. Is there a point at which you are not allowed to call for a continuance? Is it a possibility that we can talk on other pertinent issues around the agenda item and then you go for the continuance so you're not having to vote? I assume that's the impetus, right?
So the council can consider this item. You'll take public comment, and then you can consider it. You can ask any questions you have. We would take it just like a normal item. You could act if you want to, right? You haven't continued it, but you can also continue it. As we've discussed, you have 2 more meetings that you can continue, and there is a time limit of March 10th by which you have to act on this item or it would be deemed approved under the applicable provisions of the Permit Streamlining Act.
So we still have the sort of the discretion after we receive public comment to act upon that public comment or to continue it. My preference would be to continue it for a little bit more work on the legal analysis. But I would like, there are a lot of other issues that have come up other than that, or those issues themselves can be brought up right now, and now's the time to do that. So,
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yep, thank you for asking the question. I appreciate it. Folks, I know there are a lot of letters that are in the file, but this is the time to make public comment on Spring Grove. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Sorensen, thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and Mr. Walsh. You know me. My name is Tamara Sorensen, and tonight, this is the 3rd meeting officially that this project has come before you. I'm speaking for neighbors who have personally funded an independent fire review by Zari Consulting, and they are a licensed fire protection engineering firm that was delivered just yesterday, January 26th, into the public comment. This opinion is not, this isn't opinion or fear-mongering. It is expert, quantifiable evidence of code violations that are life-threatening risks of preventable danger. Zari's findings, backed by precise measurements and expert analysis, provide a preponderance of the evidence showing specific, unavoidable adverse impacts on public health and safety. If council finds otherwise, the record should reflect a clear written findings explaining why the evidence in Zari's report does not outweigh the contrary views as required by codes. Now, I'm going to submit this into evidence into the public comment, and I'm not going to take time reading all the numbers, so bear with me on that, but you will have it as part of the public record. The violations are stark. One access road for 41 units directly violates our own SHMC code, requiring 2 separate fire apparatus roads for developments over 30 units. No sprinkler allowance exception allowed since 2016. Zari calls this a, quote, critical life safety flaw that could trap anywhere from 112 to 143 residents in a wildfire. Dead End Street is 171 feet, exceeding California Fire Code, 150-foot limit, no safe turnaround for fire engines. Hose reach shortfall. Building two walls 173 feet from roads, 23 feet over the CFC code, max, delaying suppression in combustible wood frame buildings. And then it's, let's see, the city's fallback and City Ventures fallback is one about HOA rules mandating 100% garage parking, which is not a reliable safeguard, nor is it prescriptive. What if in a 2 a.m. worst-case fire scenario where winds are roaring, less than a half a mile up Spring Street is our high wildfire zone? Zari warns that this is zero-margin design, often leads to illegal street parking, and even one illegally parked vehicle reduces the clearance and the width of the street, which falls below the legal minimum for fire access and can prevent a large apparatus from reaching the scene of a fire. Just 10% noncompliance or a single car out of place creates unavoidable adverse conditions that could block responders and doom evacuations for families. I want to ask the city attorney, City Ventures, and the council directly, as I just referred to an actual HOA standard that's going to be in this Spring Grove project. Do you please specify which HOA rule stops panic or human error at 2 a.m. in the morning? How does a covenant on paper enforce compliance when fear grips a neighborhood, neighbors grab keys in the dark, they're grabbing their kids, and one misplaced car blocks everything? HOA rules are aspirational, but they're not going to stop real-world chaos, and they certainly won't help it in our wildfire-prone valley. I'm going to go straight to now. Another new adverse condition is the picket fire, 225. When did the fire chief sign off on all these codes for this project? Because if it was before the picket fire in August, that's a new condition. We're only a half a mile away from high fire zone, and anything that is spreading rapidly through dry vegetation, through, excuse me, I apologize. Adverse conditions that demand, these are adverse conditions that demand reevaluation. This memo rests on outdated data, and Zari confronts the reality that we live in today.
Ms. Sorensen, your time has expired, so please finish up.
Okay,
Your time has expired.
I understand that.
All right.
But we've been here a very long time.
I understand that, too.
Okay.
It's a 4-minute rule.
There's been others that have gone over.
I've been trying to
The
be...
biggest red flag, no worst-case scenario modeling from the city or developer. No evacuation simulations over 100 people fleeing embers. No fire models under drought and wind. No water pressure and flow tests under extreme stress when peak wildfire demand crashes PSI and hydrants fail. Zari calls for immediate testing because the codes are the floor, they're not the ceiling. And in our CAL FIRE documented 99% wildfire risk zone. Mayor, you admitted the city lacks the funds last week for independent verification. We residents have paid for it. The results are rife with preventable danger. We absolutely are. City councils have successfully handled these exact density and fire issues by acting decisively on the evidence. And in St. Helena's own Hunter project, strong opposition over evacuation risks.
Ms. Sorensen, your time has expired. Really? I mean, are you submitting that in a written form?
I am submitting it,
That would
yes,
be-
sir.
Yeah, I
Yes,
appreciate
but
that.
again, I was just taking the liberty of a number of other folks that went well over their 4 minutes, so. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Just right here and go down.
Okay. Council, cities have successfully
Please don't clap so we can hear the comment. Go ahead.
Council, cities have successfully handled these exact density and fire issues by acting decisively on evidence. In St. Helena's own Hunter project, strong opposition over evacuation risk led to mitigations, delays, and conditions. Approval came only after safeguards, not unchecked density. Napa County's rural sites like Bishop were deprioritized and reduced in emphasis due to fire risks on narrow roads. Scaling back here to 29 units would eliminate the 2-road requirement under this SCHC 15.36.100D. Directly mitigate Zari's isolation and access bottlenecks and follow precedents where cities prevail by prioritizing proven harms over maximum density. Even, and this is really good, even if one parked car can block access, as Zari explicitly warns, how can HOA rules alone protect families in a midnight wildfire? If Zari's measurements prove clear violations, why approve without confronting them head on? If powerful new evidence like the picket and this report exists, doesn't state law require reevaluation before risking lives and lawsuits? Postpone tonight, direct the developer to explore reductions to 29 units, add secondary access, or provide verified modeling and testing. Require full responses to Zari's findings before the next hearing. This is how cities win, by leading with safety, not rushing into it. Our community's safety and our children's future depend on your courage to prioritize over people process, or depend on your courage to prioritize people over process. On the record, under Public Records Act, Government Code 6250, EST, SEEK, or whatever that is, I formally request all fire safety reports, water, pressure, extreme condition analysis, worst case modeling, SEQA exemption justification, and related materials for Spring Grove. Please confirm receipt and provide a timeline for response. Thank you. Tamara and Gary Sorensen. I have a little more time, don't I?
I haven't heard a beep yet, so you do.
Well, how much more time do I have? I'm sorry? Okay. No, I don't need that. Thank you. Okay, here, this is important. Now listen to me. Oh, yeah, give me that look. Here we go. April 1968. Napa Valley Agricultural Preserve was voted in by the Board of Supervisors 58 years ago. And an educated electorate can protect the integrity of St. Helena. You have one. District 3 Supervisor, Julius Kyoka, supervisor from 1955 to 1970, was my friend. And we spent time talking about good stuff. And he was asked why. It was a unanimous vote for the Ag Preserve. He was asked, why did you vote that way? And he said, I had no choice. It was the right thing to do. And that's what I asked you to do. That was 58 years ago, and look what we benefited from. And if you should push this thing forward, my time's up. If you push this forward, what we have experienced will come to an end.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Kornak. Appreciate it. Appreciate you respecting the time and your comments. Others? Mr. Hale.
Hello again. Let me just get through this. Back in 2018, Noah Hausch, the former St. Helena Planning Director, asked me to commit to a term as a St. Helena Planning Commissioner. One of my first orders of business was attending a regional planning conference held in the searing aftermath of the Paradise Fire. A grizzled state planner delivered a sobering keynote. The gist was simple and unsettling. We have to do better. We have to commit to doing no more harm. This is not business as usual. We can no longer afford to make promises we now understand we cannot keep. Fire, as we know it today, is a substantial and inescapable reality. That message resonated deeply then, and it burns just as hot today. Sensitive, forward-looking planning sits at the heart of realizing that responsibility. To quote today's staff report, specifically, Government Code Section 655895J1 provides that if a housing development project complies with applicable objective general plan zoning and subdivision standards and criteria in effect at the time the application was deemed complete, the city may only deny the project if it finds, based on written findings supported by a preponderance of the evidence in the record, that both of the following conditions exist. The ifs in these statements are crucial. Based on substantial evidence in the record before you, submitted by multiple credible and qualified sources, the threshold assertion of compliance cannot be accurately or sincerely made because the project does not comply with applicable objective standards. The statutory limitation on denial described in Section 655895J1 does not apply. Before all of you and in the record is a list of multiple dozens of key specific areas of state law, general plan elements and policies, sections of the St. Helena Municipal Code, and then they're further detailed in examinations provided from multiple sources and also in the record make clear that Spring Grove proposal does not meet or comply with those areas of law and code. Those areas are not trivial, decorative, or discretionary provisions. They are core objective state and local standards intended to protect public life, health, safety, emergency access, and essential public services. The non-compliance identified above, along with additional deviations not listed here, clearly demonstrates the following finding, again quoted from today's staff report, is not only applicable, but compelled by the evidence. The housing development project would have would have a specific adverse impact upon the public health and safety unless the project is disapproved or approved upon the condition that the project be developed at a lower density. As defined in Government Code 655895, these impacts are significant, quantifiable, and direct, and they arise from objective safety standards and policies in effect at the time the application was deemed complete. These impacts cumulatively supply a preponderance of evidence on the record. To be clear, preponderance is the quality or fact of being greater in number, quantity, or importance. It makes no representation that facts carry equal weight. Understanding preponderance is the foundation from where you make this decision is critically important. Further, there is no feasible method to satisfactorily mitigate or avoid these impacts other than disapproval of the project or approval at a substantially lower density. In plain language, 655895J1 makes clear that you do not get to door number 2 until you have satisfied door number 1. Thanks for your careful consideration and your courage for ensuring the record accurately reflects the legal and factual deficiencies of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Mr. Park.
I recognize this is the third time I'm speaking tonight, not just the second. I apologize for that, Paul.
No apologies necessary. I welcome your comments.
Thank you. This is a little bit different from what is normally the case with us in town because the applicant doesn't own the property. Just want to point that out in case anybody is not clear on that. The other thing I want to clarify, and Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, there are the rules and regs under 330, and health safety is the one that has been designated as viable for rejection or less density on the project for health safety reasons. But before the council is a water neutrality policy and the tentative map. And as far as the tentative map approval, that portion is not designated by SB as something that is required for the council to approve. And St. Helena has really specific language around, in its municipal code, around what the bars are for meeting the ability to deny or approve the tentative map. And in the staff report, there's a number of items that pertain to the general plan that are designated as reasoning for saying the tentative map should be approved, but I'd be curious to know why so many of the items that seemingly are also pertinent to the matter were omitted by staff. The key in that section of the staff report designates that they would be demarcating whether something is in compliance or not compliance with that portion of the code. And it would be nice to at least receive substantial feedback on why that was the case, because it's a material matter for the council to be able to say, you know what, this tentative map approval is very sound versus not very sound. There's not really gray area there. So if there are sections of the general plan that state otherwise, it seems that they would be held rather high for this specific matter. So if you can have dialogue around that, great. If not, maybe it's at the next meeting, but just want to point it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Mr. Leong, welcome.
Wayne Leong, 1145 Crane Avenue. I want to thank the council for showing up. 3 out of 5. Sounds pretty good. I'd also like to thank members of the community who put a lot of time and effort into this issue. And I would hope that the council would recognize that the work that's been put in by the community is really to help you with the information that you need to make the right decision. let me back up for a little bit and give you a history of this. Paul, I may go over 4 minutes. Allow me.
I may give you 10 or 20 seconds over, as I've done with others, but yeah, try to be brief.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absurd rule. Here's people doing the work to help you make decisions, and we're limited to 4 minutes. I'll go on, sorry. So let me back up. This project was introduced to the community a year ago. There was one hearing, and then there was this public outreach, of which they had at the Native Sons. Then the project lay dormant for a whole year. I would text Fremont Mike, where are we? So the project's not complete. So this thing drags on for a year. And then right after New Year, right after the holidays, boom, it's on the Planning Commission agenda. And a few weeks later, we're on the City Council. In the meantime, a lot of issues have been presented, and then we had a mad rush to put something together to give some information that would really make a difference in determining the value of this project. So, let me give you an example of the absurdity of this process. After the community outreach that they did, they went back and our developer comes up and he says, oh, we did outreach for the community. Wonderful. Let me read one of the outreaches here. Per your request, please find below specific changes made to the original elevations during the submittal process. Improvements were made as a result of community commissioner and council member feedback. I don't remember any council member feedback. While the original elevation initially submitted and presented during the January 25 study session complied with the St. Helena objective design standards, we elected to make these aesthetic improvements in good faith and effort. So this is the input that they got from the community, and this is the objective standards that they met and made. Here they go. Increased roof pitch, omitted top parapet wall, undulated ridgeline, added accent metal roof sheds, added second floor balcony, increased detail on siding, added vine growing trellises to garage wall, added architectural fixtures at special highlighted gable areas, enriched varied garage door patterns, and the last one, professional colorists embellishments or schemes. That's objective in this town. What's not objective is force density, poor site design, life and safety issues. These are subjective. I'm going to go on, I'm sorry.
Well, your time has expired.
I'm speaking.
Your time has expired. We'll probably,
You want somebody to pull me out?
it'll be somebody else's time.
Sure.
No, there's no taking the time. It's your 4 minutes. If you want to have somebody else come up with their 4 minutes, that'll be their 4 minutes. Please, please respect the process. Your letter has been submitted, I assume.
What's that?
Your letter has been submitted. I've seen a couple letters, 1, 2, 3 letters in the agenda.
No, there is no reading. It's all out of my head. How can that happen? So there were 2 reports made.
Mr. Leong, your time has expired.
One from a fire professional engineer and from several lawyers.
What will have to happen is I will have to adjourn the meeting, and that's not fair to others. Really. I'm not trying to be a hard ASS, but
You are.
no, I'm respecting the time. It's 4 minutes. That's
Time doesn't matter. We're dealing with a
Thank you.
bizarre issue.
Thank you. Respect the process. I'm a public servant. We're all public servants. We're trying to get through the matter in a productive civil way, and I'm doing my best to do that. I'm listening to as many folks as possible, and I'm reading all the public comments. Next.
Mayor, we need to have a motion to continue the meeting to 9:30.
Indeed we do. I'll look for a motion to continue to 9:30.
Make a motion to continue the meeting to 9:30.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to continue to 9:30. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Mayor Doing.
Yes, sorry for that little delay. Continue. And welcome.
Council members, thank you for this opportunity. I'll make my comments brief. My wife and I moved up to Calistoga about 10 years ago, and now we're involved in the Calistoga Ranch properties, which, as you know, burned in 2021 because of an out-of-control wildfire. Finally, 5 years later, we kind of recouped our losses and gave Napa Valley another chance. We found a slice of heaven at in St. Helena Park, or so we thought, and now we're having PTSD of possibly having a similar episode. Everything we've heard, the well-researched comments from my neighborhood colleagues, it really sends a fear into us that we are right up against a potential having the same issue. Uncontrolled wildfires, as we all know, are not going away, especially in Northern California, and they're not lessening. I mean, it feels like us going forward with something like this, like we haven't, like we're just ignoring the future. We haven't learned our lessons. And for my feeling, and I speak for my wife, should we be more cautious and not less? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Lou Covell. I don't envy your guys' job tonight. I am a licensed architect in the state of California. I am lead AP, B, D, and C. I have a master's and bachelor's in architecture. But what I don't have, I'm not a lawyer. But we've spoken as residents. I'm also speaking as a resident, not in my role as a planning commissioner tonight. What we're witnessing right now is that we have to have a lawyer in order for our comments to be addressed. And that is really sad because nobody wants to hire a lawyer and we don't want to sue our own city because it's coming out of our own pocket. So here are my few comments, and I've put in a lot of comments. I hope you take time. I'm not angry at you all. I'm frustrated because as a resident putting in public comment, it seems to go nowhere. And we need to think creatively. We as residents do not accept the answers that were provided in this response letter. You cannot say we have enough water without proof. It needs to be shown with math. I expect at least that. It also, in public comments, there's a water management plan. It's in our zoning code. It's section 13 something. There are reasons for this. And as California, we all know, California, we have limited water supply. We also have fires all the time, and we have to have water reserved for fires. So a lot of the challenge that we're thinking about right now is checking boxes. Well, I submitted very end of the night tonight, and it's not on public comment, but the attachment 7 of the staff report, it talks about the Spring Grove vesting tentative map general plan consistency, which is what Mr. Park also mentioned in his public comment. But I've actually marked it up, and you guys can have this. But it is missing significant pieces of the general plan. It only shows the check marks. It does not show any of the X ones. Specifically, one whole section on growth management is missing of the general plan. And I have highlighted and sent this in. There's tons of pieces missing. Another thing is, I'm an architect. I have to worry about public health and safety. Compliance is not the same as mostly consistent. Mostly consistent raises potential legal risks, and it's going to be on this town for making those decisions. The general plan consistency document, this one, says it's mostly consistent, but it does not show all of the X's. Why? And then the purpose of the zoning code, I have it submitted in the document, but it says promote public health and safety, peace and welfare. And then if you go into relationship to the general plan, it says this title recognizes the supremacy of the general plan. So if there are any inconsistencies between the zoning code and the general plan shall prevail over the zoning code. So we have all these rules and laws in place. And yet what's happening is when public comments come from residents like me, they don't go anywhere. And it's only until a lawyer puts it in a drafted letter that it is being heard and listened to. So that's really a sad situation. What I really want to point out in one of my documents is the affordable housing conversation. This is not a NIMBY versus YIMBY situation. What I really want to point out is that we have limited resources and I want to use them wisely to serve our community. That's my main point, nothing else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I, for one, am listening to all the public comments and absorbing them and taking them into account. I can assure you of that.
Hello, Council. Cameron Krebs, 1346 Sylvania, speaking on this matter. First of all, I just want to address the water situation. I believe, and I might have miscounted, but I think we've received in the last 12 months 3 notices from the city about unsafe drinking water. We're having citizens spend thousands and thousands of dollars for filtration and bottled water service. We have some of the most expensive water and wastewater rates in the state, probably in the country. This raises some serious concerns. Last meeting, a city staff member came up and said that the pipe feeding this project meets its needs. Well, what feeds that pipe? I'd like to know, because when we run out of water, that's a serious health and safety concern. The other thing I want to talk about is fires and wildfires. The Palisades fire in 2025, we lost 28 people. The Camp Fire in Paradise in 2018, there were 85 people dead. The Lahaina fire 2023, 102 people died. Numerous firsthand accounts, numerous reports of people that just couldn't get out. And these were with many streets of egress going multiple directions. There were stories about people in confusion during the daytime, not even nighttime 2 a.m. situation, that drove down one-way streets and couldn't get out. And the fact that we're talking about approving this project that only has one means of egress, what happens when there's a delivery truck, which we see numerous delivery trucks of different kinds throughout the day, has a broken engine or is a flat tire or is just blocking the way? What happens when someone gets confused about when and where they're supposed to park, and who's going to enforce that? And the other thing that really gets me is the fact that we're giving a pass to this one-way ingress because there's internal fire sprinklers inside these houses. What are those internal fire sprinklers inside those houses going to do about allowing people to evacuate safely? So as I understand it, all we need are 3 council members to vote no on this. I know there's litigation concerns. Sure there are, but there's litigation concerns in everything we do and everything in life. I mean, look at the corner of Adams and Main Street in front of the Elise Walker building. There was a curb there that met the sidewalk that was at least 3, if not 4 inches high. That was a serious trip hazard. That is real litigation. That's real risk management to address those issues, and that took over a year to fix. So yeah, maybe we're looking at some litigation here, but it would be litigation that's worth fighting. And as Mr. McCornack said very rightly, just please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, Pat Friday, 1430 Wallace Court. So I'm going to address the fire issue in terms of the St. Helena Municipal Code. that the project fails to comply with mandatory provisions of the California Code as adopted, amended, and codified in Chapter 15.36 of the St. Helena Municipal Code. Those provisions require, without exception, that new developments of 1, 2 family or multifamily dwellings with more than 30 units provide 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads, while the model California Fire Code in Appendix D, Section D 107.1, includes a sprinkler exception that can, in some jurisdictions, allow more than 30 units to be served by a single access road when all dwelling units are equipped with sprinklers. St. Helena has repeatedly and deliberately declined to adopt that exception in its triennial fire code update cycle. The exception does not appear anywhere in the St. Helena Municipal Code and has not been enforced since at least 2016 fire code adoption, if not earlier.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Mayor, council members.
Mr. Smith, welcome.
Dean York Lane. All I want to ask is that you recognize the energy and effort that the staff is, or that the public has put into this, and not place this as the last item on a future agenda. Please either make it the first item to have respect for all of us that have sat here now for 3 hours, or have it as the sole agenda item. That's all I ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know I can improve in managing the calendar a little bit better. We had some holdover items from the last meeting where folks probably felt the same way, Little League contract, others. So I recognize that it's a pain in the neck to sit here and finally get heard. It's not something I'm wishing upon you. I'm a human being like you. I go to court and see the same thing. So, you know, I understand that the frustrations and emotions are high, and we're doing our best. Anyone else wishing to make public comment before I close? A brief question, but not a speech. What is your question?
This gentleman had a very good point. Could we dedicate an evening, a meeting, the fourth meeting, without anything else on the agenda, to give this a significant amount of time that it requires, because this is going to change the course of the city?
All right, thank you for your question.
But do we get an answer? Do we get an answer to the question?
No. I mean, I'm not prepared to speak on behalf of my council members. That would be a deliberative choice that we'd make.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I took it as a recommendation, and I don't. Yeah, thank you. All right. Now I will close the public comment if I haven't made that clear already. Questions from my colleagues? I think we were intending to wait on a couple other items, but there may be some issues now that we can address, and that'll be fine.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you for all of the work and information and public comment. I think we all appreciate it. So thank you for helping us. I wanted to follow up on a question from last time and ask, are there affirmative findings on the occupancy status of all of the homes, the 3 homes?
No, public comment is closed. We're going to look to our staff and then give direction if there's not enough information there.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mike Janasek, consulting planner with M Group Project Planner. There are not definitive conclusions regarding the occupancy, but we have staff in the city attorney's office have started to investigate it. We've and we submitted, I believe it's in attachment 12, where we have a direct response to that particular council concern. Where we landed is a modified condition of approval number 25 that would ensure the project complies with all applicable laws, including those that pertain to replacement of demolished units.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to do a follow-up question. So what are you saying, that at some point all of the houses will be certified, and let's just say it was true that one of them was rented at below a threshold, then one more unit would need to be affordable? Is that what it means, or can you make it more clear for me?
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the timing of conditional approval 25 is such that prior to final map and prior to the affordable housing agreement being brought forward to council, staff and the city attorney's office would conclude one way or the other whether there are affordable units being demolished.
And just to add to that, Vice Mayor Deasy, so as a condition of receiving the final map, they have to enter into an affordable housing agreement. So before that came before you, we would address that in the agreement. In the law, we talked before about if units are destroyed, that you have to replace if any were used as low-income rentals within the last 5 years. So we've asked the applicant to provide us documentation for that. They're working on that. If they can obtain documentation, then there's kind of a presumption as to the number of units that would be included. I think in this instance, it would probably be, there would have to be one unit that would be rented at 80% AMI to replace
One additional unit.
One additional unit, right? So that's the way that we're looking at addressing it. It would be addressed before they got a final map.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. It appeared that there may be some anecdotal information. How do you want to handle that from our community members who have a good sense of how these homes may have been rented in the past? How would you like to handle that? Right? Have someone write an email to the planning director? I mean, I sense that. I don't know for sure if that was the point.
Sure.
made,
If there's anecdotal, well, we're not going to be able to rely on anecdotal information, but if someone wants to provide anecdotal information that we can use to get actual information, then that would be helpful.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Other? The public comments closed.
I know, I have a question. And that is, the information about the occupancy of the houses has been provided to staff.
All right, thank you. That's your question?
I'm sorry? My question is, then why hasn't the staff read the information that was provided to them?
I don't know that.
We're going through this. They weren't occupied, they were occupied.
All right. I'm trying to get to the heart of the issue. I want the same information that you do. Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's fine. You want to give it to me, that's fine too.
It's been provided.
All right.
And they're actually acting as though they don't know.
All right. I'll take the information if you need to give it to me, and I'd be happy to look at it. All right. Okay. Keep going. We're not going to get into, we've closed the public comment, so this is now time for deliberation, and I'd like to keep, I invite the information, by the way. I'm not trying to hide it. I think more information is better for me, and that's really the purpose of how I'm conducting this meeting. Vice Mayor Deasy, continue.
Okay, thanks. Some of the questions and responses talk about compliance with the general plan, beyond fire and all of that. Can you help me understand where it matters and where it doesn't? If that's true, it doesn't matter sometimes if it doesn't comply with the general plan. What trumps what? How does this all work?
Compliance with the general plan does matter, and we've discussed this before, but the general plan is an overarching document in which there is quite a bit of subjectivity, right? There are some objective requirements, but there is a lot of kind of aspirational goals and things like that as to what we want to do. And you try to, in your decision making, you try to meld all those together into furthering the goals holistically of the general plan. And so as part of that, you adopt other documents, one of which an element of the general plan is the housing element that says how you are going to produce housing as part of these overarching goals that you have for the city and comply with the mandates that the state are imposing on us. And so you look at the general plan and you say, how are we doing this? How are we implementing this? I know some people disagree that this project implements the general plan in the way that they believe it should be. But I do think that in most of those cases, and I mean, if we needed to parse out sections of the general plan, we could. I don't know beyond what's provided in the staff materials how helpful that is, but most of those are subjective. And so when they are subjective requirements, and when you're looking at a project that's consistent with your zoning and consistent with your housing element, then if you want to deny it, you have to look to only objective standards. And so if there was an objective standard that's specifically quantifiable in the general plan that it was not in compliance with, then we would look at that. I think
Thank you.
staff's position is that's not the case, but
I think
again,
that's
that's
helpful.
the
It's
standard.
helpful. I know I've probably heard it before, but it's
Sure.
helpful to
No.
hear it again, and it gets a little bit more clear every time.
Great,
So
I'm glad it
thank
was
you.
helpful.
Could I actually amend or add to
Yeah.
that comment on two things? So we've actually done this consistency analysis of the general plan for a project approved not too long ago, the Hunter subdivision project in 2023. All that is on the agenda for the record. I would encourage everyone to go look at that consistency analysis, because actually that was the template that we used to make the findings for approving that tentative map, was the same one that we used. So certainly you could poke holes at that one as well, but it's not necessary for a city to conduct a fully exhaustive review of all of the entire policies. The second point I want to make is that there's been numerous public comments about the growth management and that we're violating that. So it's really important to note for the record that when the general plan was adopted in 2019, housing laws were passed after that that eradicated growth management across the state of California. So there is no non-compliance with that aspect. So I just wanted to take a moment to clarify that.
Thank you.
What do you think, Mr. Barrett? If you don't have any
I think-
comments, we can move it
Yeah, I
to
think
the
we need
next
to
item.
hear more about the fire-related safety issues. I'm looking forward to that, Mr. Walsh.
Yeah. Refresh my recollection. I mean, we were about to make a motion. I'm not sure we even got that far, but you need a motion specifically to a future date, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And we will be looking for just a little bit more detail. My comfort zone is to respond to the fire analysis and the lawyer's letter in particular to make sure we have the information I need. I want to make sure I have the information I need to make the decision at the presumably the next meeting, but who knows? So I'll look for that motion. Next meeting be enough time, I assume. I recognize that we have a retiring planning director or communities development director, and so there's a little bit of a difficulty there. So Mike, you're on for that to answer some of those questions. I'm sure Maya will be here to help. But those are, and most of that is an illegal analysis, but there'll be a factual background that we'll have to provide too.
Yeah, and I know we didn't have a chance to do a staff presentation today, but I really want to give kudos to our fire department because the last 24 hours they have really been focusing in on that third-party review, and we're prepared tonight to talk about it and correct the record. But it sounds like they'll have more time to do that in writing rather than just.
I think in
on
writing would be good for us
presentation.
to absorb that information, and then we'll vet it in more detail at the next meeting.
Do we get a copy of that report before the next meeting?
That will be part of the staff report, presumably.
How far in advance before the next meeting does that come out?
Normal course of action. All right, I'll look for a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to extend 11.1 to next session.
Second.
Mr. Bradley, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
Mayor Doran.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your patience with how I'm conducting the meeting, and thank you for your participation. The information is always helpful for me, for sure. Thank you. Have a good night.
Mayor,
We have
more
one, I realize that, but we're going to have to clear the room a little bit and make another motion. We'll probably, no, we have one more item. I haven't adjourned yet. Yes, ma'am. I don't know. Yeah. No, we have one more item. We're done on this matter for the night. I think most people are here for this for that item. But we have one more matter. A community. Yeah. Thank you.
As long as that one's still open. Right. Duplicate.
All right. So we have one more matter that we're going to have to take up. So that'd be great if you allow us to continue on. Thank you. Have a good night, all. All right. Thank you.
Can we first make a motion to extend past 9:30?
I make a motion to extend slightly past 9:30.
To how a time certain. 15 minutes.
To 9:45.
We only have 3 council members. Motion to extend to 9:45. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Any
Perfect.
opposed? All right. Thank you. All right.
Okay. I think everybody kind of knows the drill. I don't know, Anil, if you want to announce this one.
The door is still open? Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, this is the item where annually the mayor and city council gets to choose to either maintain the same assignment, or if you choose to either give up a particular committee or board or want to serve, or you express interest in serving on one that you're not currently serving. I should mention that Councilmember Summers has indicated that he would no longer like to serve on the TID board. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you and I have spoken about it, and it's 4 times a year. And I know you have expressed an interest in being willing to serve. So other than that, we have no knowledge of any other council members' interest or desire to change assignments.
The challenge comes when council members are not here, and then we're asked to serve on various committees. And so there's a temptation on the part of some other council members to just appoint the council members who are not here to any other vacancies. Mr. Camillo. Which one do we want to put Kate on? Any other changes that folks want to make? I'm not really anxious and dying to be serving on the TID board at 4 times a year, or something I probably can fit into my schedule. I know there's one coming up on January 29th. I don't know, unless anybody else feels a dying need to be serving on that. Happy to serve. Can't say I'll make everyone, but I'll do my best. Any other changes that we need to think about, or?
I could be your alternate.
All right. Does that require an alternate or allow for an alternate, the TID? Yeah, 4 times a year. I think they probably won't miss me if I miss one. But anything else?
That's all, Mr. Mayor. That's all I
Okay.
have.
Any other changes that folks are looking at or wanting to explore something different? Okay. What else do you need for us? I think we have consensus on that. Do you need yeah. I'll take the TID.
That's all we need.
And I was trying to pawn something else off. Can't think of it. Late. All right. Okay. Anything else for the good of our city, Mr. Bradley?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Anything else from my colleagues that we need?
I'll do it.
Oh,
Two
you're
report
right,
outs.
the reports.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
we're going to move on to
really-
the reports.
Yeah, really quick. I just want to say the Water and Wastewater Committee reorganized around three main points or subcommittees: water quality, preparing for the rate study, and water sustainability. And we're also hoping to start a little education and discussion series, the first one to be on water quality. And I also wanted to say that on the Climate Action Committee, St. Helena got a shout out we're the only city or whatever district to apply for the Bayren building efficiency grant, and I guess we got it. So that was cool. We're leading the pack.
Anything else, Ms. Barrick? I don't have anything to report. I wasn't at the last
finance-
NVTA meeting, honestly, so I'll check into that. Nothing huge there of import for us, but
There has been no finance committee since the last report out. There's
All
going
right.
to be one next week, so
All right.
it's been tough to get together.
all right. Thank you all. Meeting is adjourned. Find joy in your life.